Good afternoon. Just confirming sound. It's Wolfgang Wallhorn speaking.
Thanks for the goat. I'll get a credit. Huh? I'll get credit from the phone. I mean, you can do a little sound with the
I'll allow a few moments for silent prayer or meditation. Thank you very much. You may take your seats. Honorable delegates, I'd like to remind the honorable delegates that rules, in particular sub-rules 21, 22, and 23 of Rule 103 applies. Honorable delegates, I've been informed that there will be no notices of motions or motion without notice. We will now proceed to the first order, and that is the consideration of the report of Select Committee on Cooperative Governance and Public Administration. That is the oversight visit in terms of Section 1391B of the Constitution 1996 in Zululand District Municipality, dated the 5th of November 2024. I call on the Honorable T.M. Kaunda, the Chairperson of the Select Committee on Cooperative Governance and Public Administration, to present the committee report. Honorable Kaunda, you have 10 minutes.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy Chairperson, the House Chair, our Honorable Chief Whip, and all members of the NCOP, the MEC, if he has joined us, and fellow South Africans. Honorable Chairperson, allow me to take this opportunity to table the report of the Select Committee on Cooperative Governance and Public Administration on oversight visit conducted in terms of Section 1391B of the Constitution in Zululand District Municipality. Please note that on the 15th of May 2024, the Provincial Executive Council in KwaZulu-Natal Province resolved to intervene in terms of Section 1391B of the Constitution at Zululand District Municipality due to the alleged serious dysfunctionality at governance and administrative level, which purported to have had an adverse on the operations of the municipality. Honorable members, As part of facilitating public participation, a multi-party delegation of our select committee conducted oversight visit to Zululand District on the 22nd of October 2024. Our objectives of conducting this oversight was to interact with the internal and external stakeholders and solicit their opinions on constitutional, procedural, and substantive matters related to invocation of Section 1391B. During the oversight visit, our delegation interacted with Department of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs chief whips of political parties, representative of South African Local Government Association, organized labor, traditional leadership, faith-based community organizations, business, youth and women, and disability sector. Basis for invoking Section 1391B of the Constitution were as follows. Firstly, the key reason for the invocation of Section 1391B of the Constitution at the Zululand District Municipality were as a result of the following failure. To ensure the lawful composition of the municipal council by refusing to allow Councillor S.R. Nkosi to participate in the affairs of the municipality and allowing Mr. Bing Malo to hold office despite the court order of March 2022 and the IEC directive of April 2022, indicating an absence of any respect by the municipality for the rule of law and the constitutional system of cooperative governance envisaged in Section 41 of the Constitution 1996. Alleged illegal withdrawal of 33 million from the municipality's bank account and the accounting officer's refusal to provide information to enable the department to determine the veracity of the allegations. The municipal council's failure to investigate allegations of misconduct level against the mayor, thereby compromising the obligation to provide ethical, democratic, and accountable government. The municipal council's failure to complete service delivery infrastructure projects funded through grants from the National Fiscus and from the internal financial resources, thereby imposing service delivery constraints on citizens. To manage the finances of the municipality, which are poor and require urgent intervention before it leads to the total collapse of the municipality, which may overburden provincial and national government. Honorable Chairperson, in terms of the observations of the committee, firstly, the committee we have also noted that KwaZulu-Natal MEC responsible for Department of Cooperative Governance, Regional Affairs, notified the Minister of the Department of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs on the 21st of May, 2024, and the National Council of Provinces on the 22nd of May, 2024. We have also noted that Zululand District Municipality challenged the decision of the Provincial Executive Council to intervene in the municipality, and the court application was heard in the Pietermaritzburg High Court on the 12th of June, wherein the judgment was reserved. To date, the delivery of the judgment is still awaited. Hence, the committee could not get into the merit of the case. Honorable Chairperson and members of the NCOP, Section 1392B of the Constitution provides that intervention must end if the council disapproves the intervention within 180 days after intervention began, or by the end of that period has not approved the intervention. We have therefore noted that the NCOP has 180 days to approve or disapprove this intervention. In terms of the department computation of days, the NCOP has until 14th of November 2024. We have, however, noted that in terms of the calculations of the NCOP, the intervention in Zululand District Local Municipality will be ending on the 11th of November 2024, but not the 14th of November as reported by the KZN Department of Cooperative Governance. Honorable Chairperson and members, in terms of substantive matters, we have noted with great concerns about the illegal withdrawal of 33 million, selective application of consequence management and dismissal of only the IT manager, the failure of the chief whip of political parties to rebut the existence of the intervention triggers, lack of detailed report and information on illegal withdrawal of 33 million from municipal bank account, looting of municipal resources, 6, absence of lifestyle audit of senior managers within district municipality, cost of litigation, and lack of legislation to regulate the implementation of Section 139 and the need for us to initiate a committee bill on invocation of Section 139 interventions. Honorable Chairperson, having considered progress report on the triggers that necessitated the invocation of intervention and the opinions of the stakeholders on the constitutional, procedural, and substantive matters, the minority of members of the Select Committee supported the withdrawal of the intervention, while the majority are of the opinion that the intervention in terms of Section 1391B of the Constitution in Zululand District is justifiable and should continue, including support by the KwaZulu-Natal Department of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs in terms of Section 154. On the recommendations, Honorable Chairperson, having considered the opinions of the internal and external stakeholders and substantive matters that were brought before us, that the National Council of Provinces approves the invocation of intervention in terms of Section 1391B of the Constitution in Zululand District Municipality, and also note the decision to intervene in Zululand. That KwaZulu-Natal MSA for Department of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs should continue providing support to Zululand District Municipality. That the KwaZulu-Natal MSA also should, after the NCOP has approved this report, table quarterly progress reports to the NCOP and KZN legislature. That in the spirit of cooperative governance, the Select Committee on Cooperative Governance and Administration and Portfolio Committee on Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs in KwaZulu-Natal Provincial Legislature should, during the 2025 parliamentary term, conduct post-intervention impact assessment to monitor the progress made in the invocation of this section. That is part of facilitating public participation in accordance with Constitution. Select Committee on Cooperative Governance and Public Administration and the Portfolio Committee on Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs should ensure, when conducting post-intervention impact assessment, engage the internal and external stakeholders and solicit their opinions on the impact and progress made in respect of the invocation of Section 1391B. I therefore submit this report on behalf of the collective leadership of this committee. I thank you, Honorable Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable Kawunda. Honorable delegates, I now put the question. The question is that the report be adopted. But before we do that, I will allow provinces the opportunity to make the declarations if they so wish in terms of Rule 86. And you have 3 minutes if a head of delegation would like to make a declaration. I see the hand of Honorable Badenhorst and Honorable Billy. Honorable Badenhorst, you have 3 minutes.
Chairperson, I want to declare that the Western Cape strongly opposes the Section 1391B intervention in Zululand District Municipality. The members of the Select Committee on COCTA representing KwaZulu-Natal, Free State, Gauteng, Eastern Cape, Northwest, and Limpopo that voted in favor of the intervention failed to adhere to Chapter 4, Section 42(4) of the Constitution by, and I quote, providing a national forum for public consideration of issues affecting the province, unquote, by ignoring 9 public stakeholder sectors and 4 of the 5 political parties which declared that they do not support the Section 139 intervention. The approval of the intervention by the members of the Select Committee is setting a precedent that would render Section 154 interventions ineffective after the KZN Department of COCTA reported during the oversight visit that all the triggers for the intervention have been met and therefore the district is politically and financially stable. Chairperson, in the letter to the Select Committee from the Minister of COCTA, he advised the committee to terminate the intervention as it's clear that the notice submitted by the KZN MEC was politically motivated as it was 5 days before the 2024 national and provincial elections. We must note that in the same visit, the committee terminated the Section 139 in Inumza Local municipality because the triggers were met. However, here the ANC is in the majority, and therefore the committee members acted not in the spirit of cooperative governance, but according to party lines. Furthermore, I'd like this House to note that the decision by members of the Select Committee is contravening Rule 64 of the NCOP, which reads, matters pending before the courts. No delegate may reflect on the merits of any matter on which a judicial decision is pending. The fact of the matter is, the matter before the court deals with the merits of the Section 1391B intervention. The report of the committee the today tabled as a section 1391B intervention is saying we are proposing a section 139 intervention, which is therefore in contravention of Rule 64 of the NCOP. I so move.
Thank you. I'll now move on to the Honorable Billy, Zululand.
Deputy Chairperson, I rise on behalf of the province of KwaZulu-Natal. Chairperson, the report in front of us deals directly with the province that I represent, a province that this House just yesterday supported a motion that I brought congratulating the exceptional work that is being done by the government of the provincial unity. It is now a known fact that after years of neglect, the province is making significant progress. This includes supporting and turning around municipalities that have been struggling for years. The Zululand District municipality is one of those municipalities that experienced challenges in the past. This triggered a need to intervene and support the municipality through Section 154. It is important to note that a significant progress has been made by the municipality in this regard, particularly in addressing identified triggers. One of the triggers that was identified was the municipality having the theft of 32 million, of which 26 million has been recovered. A clear indication that some form of support, not extreme, without political interference can work. However, we note that interventions has increasingly become a tool for political interference rather than a genuine service improvement initiative. Instead of aiding communities and rectifying governance failures, these interventions often exacerbate instability and foster a culture of dependency and inefficiency, weakening the democratic and financial ability of governance. Our communities depend on municipal leadership for essential services, but in many cases, Section 139 has been invoked prematurely or prolonged unjustifiably, stripping local council of their autonomy without achieving meaningful improvement. This misuse undermines the spirit of our Constitution, which seeks a cooperative approach to intergovernmental relations. Deputy Chairperson, it is essential that Section 139 intervention remain a measure of last resort, used responsibly, transparently, and only when all avenues have been tried. I so submit.
Thank you very much, Honorable Billy. Honorable delegates, we shall now proceed to voting on the question. I now call upon the provinces to cast their votes. When called upon, heads of delegations must indicate whether they vote in favor, against, or abstain. We shall start with the Eastern Cape.
Chairperson, honorable members, the Eastern Cape Province of Legends supports the recommendation.
Free State.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. The Free State do support the report.
Gauteng.
Thank you, Chairperson. Gauteng supports the report.
KwaZulu-Natal.
KwaZulu-Natal votes against.
Limpopo. Limpopo.
Thank you, Chairperson. Honorable Mukwele, Limpopo vote in favor of the recommendation. I thank you.
Mpumalanga.
Thank you very much, Mpumalanga Province. Vote in support of the report. Thank you.
Northern Cape.
No, thanks very much, Honorable Chair, Deputy Chair. I think the chair of the portfolio committee has presented a compelling case as a Northern
Do you
Cape
support or not support?
100%. Thank you.
Northwest.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy Chairperson. As Northwest, we support.
The Western Cape.
Western Cape is against the report, Chair.
Thank you. The voting is now closed. If my count is right, table staff can just confirm with me. Yeah. I therefore declare that there were 7 provinces that voted in favor of the report and 2 voted against. I therefore declare the report adopted in accordance with Section 65 of the Constitution. Honorable delegates, we now proceed to the second order, the consideration of the report of the Select Committee on Cooperative Governance and Public Administration. The oversight report in terms of Section 1391B of the Constitution 1996 in Inumza Local Municipality, dated 5th November 2024. Honorable delegates, I call on the Honorable T.M. Kawunda, Chairperson of the Select Committee on Cooperative Governance and Public Administration, to present the committee report. Honorable Kawunda, you have 10 minutes.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. On behalf of the collective leadership and members of this committee, I therefore present this report before this House. I omitted, Chair, to recognize Salga, which is also part of this meeting. Honorable Chairperson, once more again, we present this oversight visit conducted in terms of Section 1391B in Inumza Local Municipality. Also, as part of facilitating public participation, multi-part delegation of our committee conducted oversight visit in Inumza on the 23rd of October 2023. During the oversight visit, our delegation interacted with Department of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs, chief whips of political parties, representatives of South African local government associations, organized labor, traditional leaders, faith-based community organization, disability sector, youth and women's forums. On the basis which led to the invocation of Section 1391B, in terms of the pillar of putting people first, the intervention triggers included dysfunctionality of ward committees and public protest. In terms of service delivery, the intervention trigger included the stopping of funds from the National Treasury and the failure of the Municipal Council to resolve challenges related to service delivery. In terms of the intervention trigger included dysfunctionality of the Municipal Council, collapse of meetings, falsification of council resolutions and lack of quorum, failure to hold councillors accountable for absenteeism, failure to exercise oversight on management on conditional grants, failure to investigate allegations of malfeasance and maladministration against senior managers and leaders of the municipality, and failure by council to consider statutory reports, e.g. annual reports and mid-term year budget and performance report. In terms of sound financial management, the intervention trigger included failures to prevent and investigate the unauthorized irregular expenditure and fruitless and wasteful expenditure, to approve 2023-2024 adjustment budget in February 2024, to conduct the midterm performance assessment in January 2024, to table the 2024-2025 budget and IDP on the 31st of March 2024 as required. Honorable Chairperson, the trigger that led intervention included failures to fill vacant posts of senior managers, the municipal managers post, chief financial officer, directors of cooperative services, technical director, director planning and LED, local economic development, and all above posts are to be re-advertised in mid-June 2024. The observation of the Select Committee in terms of the constitution and procedural compliance, we have also noted that KwaZulu-Natal MSC of the Department of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs notified the Minister of the Department of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs on the 14th of May 2024 and the National Council of Provinces on the 15th of May 2024. We have noted that on the 29th of April 2024, the Provincial Executive Council of KwaZulu-Natal resolved to intervene in terms of Section 1391B of the Constitution of 1996 in Inumza Municipality. We have further noted that the Minister of the Department of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs has duly approved the invocation of Section 1391B of the Constitution to this municipality on the 11th of June 2024 per constitutional requirement. in line with the approval requirements of Section 1392 of the Constitution, we have noted that the ministerial approval of the intervention was subject to the conditions that the intervention team, supported by the Provincial Department of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs and Provincial Treasury, must develop a plan against which they will deliver corrective measures for the triggers of the intervention. That the interventions must be revoked or ended only when all pertinent issues that necessitated the intervention have been eliminated and the municipal council and administration have been established towards performing their respective mandate. That the intervention task team and other representatives of the PEC in the municipality work together with the department and the representatives of provincial coordinators designated to the province to deal with both the challenges which necessitated the intervention and other challenges. That the office of the KZN MSC of the Department of Cooperative Governance Regional Affairs regularly reports to the ministry of any further developments on this intervention, and that the National Department of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs be provided with monthly and quarterly progress reports. Honorable Chairperson, Section 1392B of the Constitution provides that intervention must end if Council disapproves the intervention within 180 days. We have noted that the NCOP has 180 days to approve or disapprove an intervention. In terms of the department computation of days, the NCOP has until 28th of October 2024 to approve or disapprove the intervention at Inumza Local. However, we have noted that in terms of the calculations of the NCOP, the intervention in Inumza Local Municipality will be ending on the 24th of October 2024, but not 28th of October as reported by the department. Honorable Chairperson, having considered the progress report on the triggers that necessitated the invocation of the intervention and the opinions of the stakeholders of the constitutional, procedural, and substantive matters, the Select Committee had the following recommendations to make. Firstly, having engaged and solicited the opinions that the National Council of Provinces notes the discontinuation and withdrawal of the intervention in terms of Section 1391B of the Constitution in Inumza Municipality. That the KwaZulu-Natal MSC for Department of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs should, after the NCOP has approved this report or noted this report, table determination and an exit report on intervention in terms of Section 1391B of the Constitution in Inumza Local Municipality to the National Council of Provinces and the provincial legislature in the province. That the KwaZulu-Natal MSC of the Department of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs should, however, continue monitoring and supporting the Inumza Local Municipality in terms of the municipal support interventions plan. The fourth one, that in the spirit of cooperative governance, the Select Committee on Cooperative Governance and Public Administration and the Portfolio Committee on Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs in KwaZulu-Natal Provincial Legislature should, during the 2025 parliamentary term, conduct post-intervention impact assessment to monitor facilitating public participation in accordance with the Constitution. Select Committee on Cooperative Governance and Public Administration and the Portfolio Committee on Cooperative and Regional Affairs should ensure, when conducting post-intervention impact assessment, engage the internal and external stakeholders and solicit their opinions on the impact and progress made in respect of invocation of Section 1391B of the Constitution in the local and district municipalities. Section 1391B of the Constitution in the local municipalities across the KwaZulu-Natal province. We do submit on behalf of the committee to this August House this report, consolidated report. I thank you, Honorable Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable Kawunda. I now put the question, and before proceeding to the voting, I shall allow provinces again the opportunity to make declarations of vote in terms of Rule 86, if they so wish, and they have a maximum of 3 minutes. I look for hands. Are there any provinces that would like to make declarations? I don't see any hands.
Yes, Mbola.
I see Honorable Kesa. is not a whip. Honorable Kesa, if you are there, please confirm whether you've been mandated by your whip. Thank you. We shall move on.
Yes,
We shall
yes,
now
I've been
proceed.
operated by my whip, Deputy Chairperson.
Your whip is here, but your whip hasn't nominated you to
Oh.
speak.
Okay, that's fine, Deputy Chair.
We shall now proceed with the voting on the question. I now call upon the provinces to cast their votes. When called upon, the heads of delegations must please indicate whether they vote in favor, against, or they abstain. Eastern Cape,
Honorable members, the Eastern Cape is voting in favor.
Free State,
Honorable Chair, Free State is voting in favor of the report.
Gauteng,
Thank you, Chair. We are voting in favor. Is Gauteng?
KwaZulu-Natal,
Deputy Chair, KZN vote in support.
Limpopo, Limpopo Province, Head of Delegation, Honorable Mokwele. Okay, we'll give him some time to try and link on. He's on the platform, but
Chairperson, I'm here. I was just struggling with the microphone, but thanks very much, Chairperson, and greeted to honorable members. As Limpopo, we vote. We are supporting.
thank you. In Mpumalanga,
Thank you very much, Chair. As Mpumalanga, we vote in favor. Thank you.
thank you. Northern Cape,
Thank you, Deputy Chair. As the Northern Cape, we vote in favor.
thank you. Northwest,
Thank you, Deputy Chairperson. As Northwest, we vote in favor.
Western Cape,
Thank you, Chair. The Western Cape will support.
thank you, honorable delegates. The voting is now closed. There were 9 provinces that voted in favor. I therefore declare the report adopted in accordance with Section 65 of the Constitution. Honorable delegates, we now proceed to the third order, that is the consideration of the report of the Select Committee on Cooperative Governance and Public Administration, the status of the interventions invoked in terms of Section 1391B of the Constitution 1996 in KwaZulu-Natal, local and district municipalities dated the 5th of November 2024. I now call upon the Honorable T.M. Kaunda, the Chairperson of the Select Committee on Cooperative Governance and Public Administration, to present his report. Honorable Kaunda, you have 10 minutes.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. No intimidation will ever deter me. I'll have to present this report. Thank you, Chair. Honorable Chairperson, the Select Committee on Cooperative Governance and Public Administration, having considered progress reports on the status of interventions invoked in terms of Section 1391B of the Constitution, on the 3rd of September 2024, thank you, my leader. Cheers. On the 3rd of September 2024, the MSC of KwaZulu-Natal Department of Cooperatives and Traditional Affairs briefed members of the Select Committee on Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs on the progress report. The presentations focus on 10 Section 139 interventions in the province and 2 municipalities which were put under intervention Section 1391A. On the observation, the Select Committee has noted the Department of COGTA has terminated Section 1391B intervention at Msunduzi Local Municipality on the 30th of April 2024 and invoked Section 1391A intervention, thus issuing a directive to the municipality to develop a 6-month implementation recovery plan and submit it within 14 days to the MSC for COGTA to deal with triggers relating to failures of the council to exercise oversight over management, resulting in the cash position of the municipality being overdrawn, failure by council to resolve service delivery challenges, waste management, roads management, and electricity. We have also noted that on the 29th of April 2024, the Provincial Executive Council of KwaZulu-Natal resolved to intervene in terms of Section 1391B of the Constitution in Umzumbe, which we have just dealt with. The Select Committee has noted that on the 29th of April 2024, the Provincial Executive Council of KwaZulu-Natal also resolved to issue a directive to the municipality of Umhlatuze local municipality stating steps to be required to meet its obligation in terms of Section 1391A of the Constitution of 1996. Zululand District Municipality and Umhlatuze local municipality challenged the intervention in court as matters were heard on the 12th of June and the judgments were reserved. We have noted the legal procedure and challenge for the intervention into Zululand Municipality and Mhlatuze. We have noted with concerns that some of these interventions have been placed for a long time with Umzinyati local municipality intervention having started in 2016, while Mpofana local municipality and Inkosilangalbalele local municipality intervention started in December 2017. We have welcomed the appointment of senior management within the Mpofana local municipality and is hopeful that they will drive the implementation of objectives of the municipality and resolve poor audit outcomes in the municipality. Despite this, the Select Committee remains concerned that the ballooning ESCOM debt has not been resolved, which will lead to further debt to the municipality. But we were informed later that their application was also approved to deal with the debt. In Utugela District Municipality, we have noted with concerns that a majority of identified inefficiencies have not been resolved, including the underspending on capital budgets, lack of capacity to undertake water and sanitation functions, low collection rates, weak financial management controls, and poor state of infrastructure. The Select Committee is of the view that it will be difficult to achieve the objects of this municipality without adequate financial management controls and inadequate skills base that is experienced. Also, the inadequate spending on infrastructure maintenance will result in further deterioration of public infrastructure in that municipality. In Inkosilangalbalele local municipality, the Select Committee welcome the commendable progress in resolving a substantial number of challenges that led to the intervention. The Select Committee welcome the assurance that the municipality is now operating with a funded budget. In Umzinyati District Municipality, the Select Committee considered it unfortunate and unacceptable that the municipality has refused to give consent for the ministerial representatives to have access to the municipal primary banking facility. While this matter has now been resolved by the appointment of a new ministerial representative, it nonetheless delays implementation of corrective measures to ensure that the intervention succeeds. Despite this, the Select Committee calls upon the appointment of administrator by the Department of Cooperative Governance and Regional Affairs to urgently prioritize investigations into allegations of maladministration, fraud, and corruption to ensure that they are resolved. In Umkhanyakude District Municipality, we have noted with great concern the failure to achieve precarious cash flow positions and payment of creditors, to table completed internal forensic investigations, to fill vacancies in senior management, to prevent and investigate UIFW, to supervise project management. Honorable Chairperson, having considered the progress reports on the application of Section 1391B interventions in the local district municipality, members of the Select Committee have noted with great concern that the state of local government in KZN province, political instability in municipalities, lack of consequence management, non-functionality of councils, non-attendance of councillors to council meetings, lack of impact of Section 139 of the Constitution, absence of regulations to regulate invocation of these interventions. We also highlighted that a need for the Select Committee to consider tabling its legislative proposal on the invocation of Section 139, failure of sector department to contribute to one plan in the municipality is in line with the district development model. Honorable Chairperson, we are concerned by the minimal positive progress achieved in some of these municipalities who have been put under this section 1391B. We are of considered view that the inability to resolve matters such as non-payment of supplies, inadequate council oversight over management, growing debtors, and the lack of adequate skills will continue to hamper effective service delivery. Furthermore, the committee considers some of the challenges are patently unacceptable and undermine the trust given to those elected representatives by the citizen. Therefore, the select committee have made the following recommendations. Is making the following recommendations to this August House. The National Council of Provinces notes the progress reports on the status of intervention in terms of section 1391B of the Constitution in both local and district municipalities in KZN. The MSC responsible for the department ensures that the appointment of administrator by the Department of Cooperative Governance and Social Affairs urgently prioritize investigations into allegations of maladministration, fraud, and corruption to ensure that they are resolved. That the responsible MSC fast track the process of tabling termination reports to the National Council of Provinces and KZN Provincial Legislature on interventions invoked in terms of section 1391B of the Constitution. The KwaZulu-Natal MSC to provide update report to the National Council of Provinces and Provincial Legislature on the progress that is made in relation to the court cases. That in the spirit of cooperative governance, the Select Committee on Cooperative Governance and the Portfolio Committee in the Provincial Legislature should, during the 2025 parliamentary term, conduct post-intervention impact assessment. That as part of facilitating public participation in accordance with the Constitution, the Select Committee on Cooperative Governance and Public Administration and the Portfolio Committee on Cooperative and Traditional Affairs should ensure when conducting post-intervention impact assessment, engage the internal and external stakeholders and solicit their opinions on the impact and progress made in respect of the invocation of section 1391B of the Constitution in the local and district municipalities in the province of KwaZulu-Natal. On behalf of the collective leadership of this committee, I wish to table formally this report on their behalf. I thank you, Honorable Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Kaunda. Honorable delegates, before we proceed to voting, I shall again allow provinces the opportunity to make declarations if they so desire in terms of Rule 86. And here they have a maximum of 3 minutes. Any province would like to make a declaration? I don't see any hands. We shall then move on to the voting. We shall now proceed. And I call upon the provinces to cast their votes. When called upon, the heads of delegation must indicate whether they vote in favor, against, or abstain. We start with the Eastern Cape.
Chairperson, honorable members, Eastern Cape vote in favor.
Free State.
Honorable Chair, Free State vote in favor of the report.
Gauteng.
Thank you, Chair. Gauteng is voting in favor of the report. Thank you.
KwaZulu-Natal.
Deputy Chairperson, KwaZulu-Natal notes the report.
Limpopo.
Honorable Chairperson, Limpopo vote in favor. I thank you.
Mpumalanga.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Mpumalanga vote in favor.
Northern Cape.
Thank you, Deputy Chair. The Northern Cape votes in favor of the report. Thank you.
Northwest.
Thank you, Deputy Chairperson. As Northwest, we vote in favor.
Western Cape.
Western Cape supports, thanks.
The voting is now closed. Honorable members, there were 9 provinces that voted in favor. I therefore declare the report adopted in accordance with Section 65 of the Constitution. I see a hand, Honorable Brits.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy Chair. In terms of Rule 87(1), read with Rule 88, I herewith request copies of the delegations on orders 1, 2, and 3 of today's order paper. Thank you.
Those reports are available, and you will receive them. Thank you. Those reports are ATC, so you'll be able to pick it up from there. Honorable delegates, we shall now proceed to the subject for debate as printed in the order paper. But before I do that, I want to inform the House that the Minister will not be joining us in the sitting. And I would like to, at the same time, welcome MECs who are here with us and thank them for their presence. And also thank the special delegates who are joining us either in the House or if they are online. We shall now proceed to the debate on the negative impact of state-owned enterprises bailouts on other frontline government departments such as education, health, police, and others which are suffering from significant budget shortfalls. I now call upon the Honorable M. Boyson of the DA to open the debate. Honorable Boyson, you have 20 minutes.
Honorable Deputy Chairperson, honorable members and fellow South Africans, there is a crisis quietly but profoundly affecting our nation, a crisis which risks the very core of our essential services like education, health, and safety. Over the last decade, the national government has poured an astonishing R500 billion into bailing out failing state-owned enterprises. What may look like a life preserver for these struggling entities is in reality dragging down our citizens. These bailouts are not just numbers. They represent the choices made to prioritize inefficiency over urgent needs. Consider what this means for the Western Cape. In a province where nearly 95% of our budget depends on national allocations, every rand diverted to SOE bailouts is a rand stripped from our schools, hospitals, as well as police. In the last decade alone, the Western Cape has suffered 8.45 billion rand in cuts from its provincial equity share. 8.45 billion rand that could have been invested in hiring teachers, expanding hospitals, or bolstering our police force. This redirection of funds has severe real-life consequences. With 8.45 billion, imagine how many lives we could have improved by expanding healthcare and increasing our police presence in our communities. Imagine the schools we could have built or additional teachers we could have employed. To illustrate further, Gauteng faces the potential dismissal of over 3,000 teachers, and in KwaZulu-Natal, 11,000 teachers risk losing their jobs. In the Western Cape, these cuts have left us struggling to fill over 2,500 teaching posts. When children sit in overcrowded classrooms or lack the basic resources they need to learn, these abstract cuts become an everyday reality for them. Meanwhile, our province continues to face unprecedented population growth, due in part of a lure of opportunities here in the Western Cape. Between 2022 and 2026, our net migration is expected to make up more than half the Western Cape population. We welcome the contributions of those who choose to make the Western Cape their home, but it does put pressure on our health services, social support systems, and infrastructure. Our residents are living longer, they have healthier lives, which is a positive development, yet it only intensifies the strain on our limited resources. This situation is exacerbated by the national government's unfunded wage increases. They're forcing provinces to bridge gaps from their already stretched budgets. To meet these demands, the Western Cape alone requires an additional 2.9 billion rand, but we only received 1.7 billion. That is a 1.1 billion rand shortfall that translates directly into fewer resources for our frontline services, more strain on our personnel, and a greater uncertainty, not just for this province, but for the whole South Africa. As the national government sidestepped physical responsibility, they've left our province to struggle with rising demands and stagnant funding. This approach is disheartening, especially when we consider the 10.34 billion rand lost nationally to wasteful expenditure and an additional 38.83 billion rand squandered through overspending in just the last 5 years. These billions could have built hospitals, employed healthcare workers, or fortified our schools. Imagine an education system where every child has access to well-staffed, well-equipped classrooms. Picture a healthcare system where no resident has to endure long waits for the attention they urgently needed. In stark contrast to the national trend, the Western Cape continues to stand as a beacon of good governance. For years, we have achieved clean audits across all our departments, a record that no other province can match. This isn't merely a bureaucratic milestone, it is a testament of our commitment to fiscal discipline, transparency, and accountability. Every taxpayer rand in the Western Cape is tracked, it is audited, and responsibly allocated to benefit all our communities. This sets us apart and proves that efficient governance is both possible and beneficial to all our citizens. As we face these mounting challenges, I urge us to reflect on the human element. Each bailout to an SOE is another mother waiting long in a hospital queue. It's another teacher stretched too thin, and it's another police station under-resourced. These are choices that has human cost. Yet there is a glimmer of hope. With the formation of the Government of National Unity, we look forward to real change, change that can bring about necessary accountability, prioritization of our people over failing institutions. We must insist on governments that values the welfare of its citizens over and above the perpetual cycle of SOE bailouts. Let us commit to a future where public funds are directed towards uplifting communities, empowering our youth, and safeguarding the health and well-being of all South Africans. Let us ensure that each decision we make is a step towards rebuilding trust and delivering a brighter and more resilient future. Thank you, Deputy Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Boyson. We shall now move on to the next speaker, and that is Honorable Gericka, the Economic Freedom Fighters. You have 15 minutes.
I don't know if you must say today, kiss the boer, kiss the farmer. Deputy Chairperson, state-owned enterprises are an important feature of the political economy of South Africa as they stand as vehicles of national development strategies. As commercially run companies under government ownership, SOEs are by design established for economic development, where the state assumes a prominent role in the development of infrastructure. They are inherently part of and responsible to foster development and optimize integration of infrastructure development in order to uplift, empower, and strengthen the economy and create opportunities for those who were grossly disadvantaged by the crooked system of apartheid and colonialism. SOEs, the role of SOEs also includes to serve as a vehicle to facilitate improved economic growth and poverty reduction. They also play a key role in promoting socio-economic development by providing a wide range of products and services to the nation. They play an important role first in terms of the direct services which they provide, such as access to water, electricity, sanitation, and transportation. And in this country, people's access to water, electricity, sanitation, and transportation is almost entirely dependent on the state. And they are engines of economic survival. However, in South Africa, under the leadership of the ruling party, we have witnessed how many of these entities are run by politicians and officials as if it is their own personal property or business, with little regard given to the relevant pieces of legislation governing state-owned enterprises. State-owned enterprises experience a number of challenges which have brought these entities to their knees. They have suffered immense financial losses at the hands of corrupt and incompetent politicians and officials who were actually supposed to give effect to constitutional imperatives such as Section 27 of the Constitution of South Africa that seeks to protect the social rights of all South Africans. South African state-owned enterprises are inefficient, they operate at a loss, and fail to provide critical public goods and services due to various mismanagement and corruption. The EFF is aggrieved by the fact that hundreds of billions of rands are poured into almost all these entities, supporting corruption, maladministration, cronyism, and nepotism. This has come at the inconvenience of millions of South Africans who cannot afford a decent basket of food, lack proper health care, and no access to land and human settlement, and this is true particularly in the Western Cape as well. With unemployment standing as one of the primary negative consequences of the decline of state enterprises, as state enterprises are major employers providing jobs to a significant portion of the workforce. Chairperson, most of the challenges faced by the state-owned enterprises are as a result of leadership failures encountered in this country as huge amounts of monies are poured into South African Airways, Eskom, Transnet, only for them to be looted and ransacked by corrupt people. And it is regrettable that the squandering and looting of state money is continuing at the cost of millions of poor and vulnerable South Africans. State-owned enterprises, financial and management crisis has but deepened throughout the years without a practical and implementable plan to rescue them. The decline of state enterprises in South Africa carries significant social implications that extend well beyond economic considerations. Equally, service delivery to normal, ordinary South Africans is negatively impacted due to the underperformance, maladministration, and corruption that continue to sow havoc in our country. In a recent investigation by a research company, it has been established that South Africa is heading to a nationwide uprising and protest because of a lack of water sources to poor communities. Water shedding is awaiting us due to poor performance and financial mismanagement. The research shows that only the affluent, wealthy will be able to afford and have access to water. This inequality and discrimination against the poor has all been done under ANC rule. For 30 years, comrades, for 30 years, thieves and unscrupulous individuals got away with a culture of looting the very important SOEs that were supposed to uplift, create the quality of life of the poor and vulnerable sections of our communities. Those who are primarily responsible to collect these entities are now rewarded with top positions even in Parliament. Transnet has collapsed under ANC rule. Poor communities throughout the country are struggling to have access to more affordable train services due to the looting. The EFF expressed gross concern that those monies that was stolen and robbed by those who were in charge of SOEs, even ruthlessly stood unconcerning against the upliftment of our educational and healthcare systems, as well as our people's social security network. The poor are still sitting in dilapidated schools, and in some instances, healthcare has collapsed. The poor and needy are totally forgotten, and unashamedly, thieves have been allowed to enrich themselves at the cost of the poor. The EFF further calls on the police and National Prosecuting Authority to expedite all outstanding investigations against those who were responsible for these dishonest acts, and throw them in jail with immediate effect. This is where they belong. They have stolen from the poor and the needy, and they must even be taken, apprehended from the seats of parliament and thrown into jail. Chairperson, the fixing and rebuilding of state-owned enterprises is therefore necessary so as to instill confidence and restore trust in these institutions. What is required is strengthening of SOE legal and regulatory frameworks and practices so as to prevent corruption, to introduce transparency and accountability at all levels, and put ethics at the center of business decision making. And therefore we say that competent officials must be appointed in every position on every level of this country. Ons moet wegdoen om vriende en families aan te stel. Ons moet wegdoen om ons eie kinders aan te stel. En ons moet mense in posisies plaas wat inderdaad gekwalifiseerd is, wat verstaan hoe om ons economie reg te maak, reg te ruk en ons land vorentoe te neem. The EFF will continue to call for the appointment of competent politicians and officials to revamp the entire governing system. The EFF is astounded that those opposition parties, and I want you to take seriously note of this, colleagues, is astounded that those opposition parties who once called for the incarceration of thieves are now mum on these issues, as they rather prefer to enjoy blue lights, bodyguards, and the benefits of serving in the so-called government of national unity. You will find them particularly in the DA benches. They don't talk against corruption. They say nothing against a maladministration. In fact, they stand up to glorify the ANC in this house, the DA. That is the utter form of hypocrisy and doublespeak. Therefore, none of them can be trusted to oversee state funds and projects. Ons kan julle nie eers vertrou in die komitees waar julle aangestel is nie. Ons sien hoe pronk julle daarso met suits aan, met blou ligte, want julle dien in daai komitees. Jy verdien ekstra geld, die DA is choepstil oor alles hierdie geld wat gesteel is. Dis 'n skreiende skande wat julle doen. The time for change has come, Chairperson. Die regering van nasionale eenheid is 'n skyn, is 'n shine. Die regering van nasionale eenheid, die government of national unity, gaan nie hou nie. Omdat dit 'n mensgemaakte system is, wat nie ingestem is deur die publiek van Suid-Afrika nie. Dit is wat julle geknoei het agterlangs om posisies te bekom en om julle self te verryk. Die DA is die grootste culprits as dit kom by skynheiligheid, gevolg deur die ANC. The EFF is the only party with a credible and clean record that can lead South Africa to economic freedom, employment opportunities, and state-of-the-art infrastructure development.
Colleagues, don't run out the speaker.
Die EFF neem standpunt in. Ons praat nie vandag so en môre so nie. Ons leiers het integriteit, hulle het waardes en hulle enigste doel is om ons land vorentoe te neem. En daarom sê ons viva EFF, viva! Pansi ANC, pansi! Pansi DA, pansi! ACG! Telling you. So we call on the general public to trust the EFF with their votes. We stand for clean governance. We are against maladministration. We will throw every corrupt politician and individual in the jail. And today we warn you, your time is nigh. Your time is nigh. Even those of you that benefited from Steinhoff, and you will find them in the DA. Ons gaan julle vang. Ons gaan julle die boeie aansit. En ons gaan julle borg teenstaan. Because you have stolen from the public and from people that suffer, that are disadvantaged, that are sidelined. Instead, you were supposed to build those people. Chairperson, ek word gedra nie so asseblief tog aan round.
You are protected, honorable member. Continue.
Yes. So, we rejoice in the fact, the EFF rejoice in the fact that you have ignored the plight of the poor. Therefore, in the next election in 2026, there will be no vote for the ANC. There will be no single vote for MK. There will be no single vote for the DA. You will all be voted out because you do not understand the principle of the programs of clean government. Thank you very much indeed, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable Kerika. Honorable colleagues, let us move on to the next honorable member, and that is the Honorable Badenost from the Democratic Alliance. Honorable Badenost, you have 10 minutes.
Honorable House Chair, honorable members, fellow South Africans, honorable Minister in the Presidency. Oh no, she's not here. I wonder why. She was on the speakers list earlier. Let's explore the reasons why she's not here. South Africa operates a free market economy. Yes, there are some constraints as government tries to ensure fairness and access, but our model is most effectively described as being free market. This will drive some of the members of this House half crazy with ideological fury. But here's the thing. In a functioning free market economy, the role of the state is to ensure that all citizens receive the basic requirements for a dignified life at an acceptable level. It is therefore necessary for the state to run certain entities that provide services to the country that are either strategic, morally imperative without reward, unpleasant, unpopular, or unprofitable. These are what we call state-owned enterprises. The need for sustainable potable water supply at pretty much cost price is what has driven the establishment of water boards. Similarly, the need for large-scale public transport without being driven by profit motive is, in part, what gave birth to Transnet, and certainly to some of its entities. These entities should operate efficiently and be largely self-funding, without generating massive profits at the expense of consumers and end users. That, at least, friends, is the theory. However, in practice, since 1994, state-owned enterprises have been seen as vehicles for the political elite to build empires, create sheltered employment for friends and political comrades, and to strip and pillage state resources at a seemingly increasing tempo. The need to create jobs saw the productivity at Eskom remain stagnant while the staff headcount more than doubled. It saw similar inflation of posts at SAA and across most state-owned enterprises. So many more posts, so many more salaries, so many more costs, so very much the same of dismal output, if any. Add to this the substantial turnovers and balance sheets. Add to this picture the substantial turnovers and balance sheets of some of the big brother SOEs, and you have a fertile space to go and raise funding from, willing lenders to fund the largesse of cadres and cronies. And yes, also to help launder vast sums in blatantly corrupt transactions. In this way, the cash cows of the state were milked dry to the point of collapse. Transnet, Denel, South African Airways, the SABC, the South African Post Office. The list of failures go on, But for the sake of brevity, let's concentrate on the most obvious example, Eskom, an entity that once was world-renowned for its effectiveness and efficiency. It took a very short space of time for very few people and one morally corrupt ruling political party to turn the entity into a basket case, unable to meet its mandate, unable to pay its creditors, unable to sustain the corrupt coal supply deals which lined the pockets of well-placed officials, politicians, and a few Saxon world beneficiaries alike. I'm going to quote at length from an editorial in the Citizen newspaper dated this past Monday, the 4th of November. Quote, "If you are so inclined or ever in a position to do so, here's a foolproof recipe for milking a state-owned enterprise. It has been used multiple times by the ANC deployees since 1994, so it must work. Number one, be an ANC member in good standing. Know the top brass of the deployment committee. Number two, choose an entity which has a big taxpayer-supplied budget. Number three, ensconce yourself as CEO, placing the race or gender card if anyone questions your qualifications. Number four, bring in all your mates who have previous experience in overpaid parastatal jobs, particularly if they failed in those jobs. Number five, appoint them to key positions in the organization, forcing out incumbents, perhaps in the name of transformation. Number six, create extra posts if there are not enough. Number seven, inflate the salaries of all those posts. Number eight, when your comrades can't do the job, bring in consultants at a hugely inflated cost. And number nine, if anyone complains, pull out your cards above. Honorable members, the piece was not intended as satire. It was stated in all seriousness, addressing the life-threatening situation currently at the air traffic and navigation systems, another failed SOE. Please do not think that I'm throwing in the phrase life-threatening lightly. The current state of our air traffic control has the potential to cause the deaths of passengers, like we have unfortunately seen in our rail system. Honorable members, the issues are obvious. I've taken some time to orientate the problems and their causes. The solution of the government to date has been to throw money at the problem. Yes, we call them bailouts. And yes, the amounts have been staggering. It is important to note that the majority of these bailouts were necessitated by the disastrous leadership of one Jacob Zuma, who used the state-owned enterprises as a piggy bank for himself, his close allies, and through his actions allowed many more people, politicians, connected people, and deployed cadres alike to use the tools that were intended to bring a better life to all South Africans for their own personal financial gain. Yes, colleagues, the many are suffering still because of the greed of the few. Since 2015, Treasury has granted bailouts of 457 billion rand. Honorable members, that number is huge. That is almost 6 times what government gives municipalities in equitable share each year. Think how our service delivery could be enhanced if the municipalities at the coal face of service delivery could have had this massive injection into their coffers. Those long-awaited high mast lights, the new sewage line servicing a community, or even a new treatment plant, enhanced water provision. All of these things could have been possible were this money not squandered on SOEs that were treated as a piggy bank by corrupt deployees. To add insult to injury, the SOEs that benefited from bailouts have mostly not turned their operations around. With the exception of SAA, who's now turning at an operating profit, all of the other beneficiaries of bailouts remain in precarious positions due to the fact that the bailouts were demanded and expected and then given without enforceable conditions. The situation became so dire that at one stage, Eskom even refused to account to Treasury on how the money was spent. Can it be said that the previous ANC government operated in the best interest of all South Africans? Until 29 May 2024, clearly not. We can only be grateful that the abused, punch-drunk voters have delivered a government of national unity, and so we can now finally celebrate the steady hand of the Democratic Alliance in Treasury. This was demonstrated last week with Minister Gonongwana's confirmation that there was no money for bailouts, and this will continue going forward. If ever there was a reason to celebrate the GNU, this is it. Think how much better it could be if the DA had full control. I would like to conclude, honourable members, with a stark reminder to the voters out there what the difference between the ANC and the DA is. by way of a practical example. Let's compare the tale of the two Malusis.
Badnos, could you take your seat, please? Honorable
No, Deputy Chair.
Zimande. What rule are you standing?
No, I'm standing on the rule, Chair, that suggests the speaker is boring.
No, what rule number? Take your seat, please.
He has lowered the bar.
No,
He has lowered the
no,
bar.
take your seat.
After a preacher.
Take your seat, please. Out of order. Continue, Honorable Badnos.
I hope I get that extra 10 minutes back of my life. Let's compare the tale of the two Malusis. Malusi 1 was once a member of the DA and a mayoral committee member in the city of Cape Town. He got himself embroiled in 1 billion rand dodgy tender deals and he was caught. He was fired from his job before he could cause any more damage and is currently out on 250,000 rand bail awaiting trial. Malusi 2 was once a Deputy Minister of Home Affairs, Minister of Public Enterprises, Minister of Finance and Minister of Home Affairs, all between 2004 and 2018. He is also known as a Chief Architect of State Capture. Transnet, Eskom and South African Airways all suffered from his corrupt attention for years. The Zondo Commission recommended that he should be investigated for, amongst others, receiving cash bribes from the Guptas, corruption and racketeering. Instead, he was rewarded with an ANC seat in Parliament and is now the co-chair, believe it or not, of the Joint Standing Committee on Defence. No wonder our state-owned enterprises failed. Look who was in control. The time has come to turn our backs on ideology and to embrace privatization, whether our ideological friends in their red overalls and camo overalls like it or not. I thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Badnos. We shall now move on to the next speaker, and that is the Honorable MEC for Finance and Economic Development and Treasury, the Honorable Mahile.
Thank you very much.
You have 10 minutes.
Chair. Thank you very much. Let me acknowledge all other colleagues from other provinces and the members of the NCOP. Ladies and gentlemen, there is no question that the debate on bailouts for state-owned enterprises in South Africa is critical. Over the past 5 years, the national government has spent hundreds of billions of rands bailing out struggling SOEs. The scale of the bailouts is astronomical. Consider that over the past 5 years alone, nearly 300 billion has been invested in bailing out Eskom, Denel, Transnet, the Post Office, SAA, etc. During this period, with scores of SOEs receiving bailouts, only one, Savcol, has declared a R1 million dividend to the government as a shareholder. And as things stands, most, if not all, the SOEs that have been receiving bailouts will be needing more bailouts to stay afloat. Rather than stabilize SOEs as hoped for, the concurrent bailouts have contributed to the steady deterioration of the financial and operational performance of major SOEs. At the heart of the problem is inefficient corporate governance, obsolete business models, and crippling cost structures. Finance Minister Enoch Godongwana stated that the daily operations of SOEs have grown reliant on fiscal intervention from the government, acknowledging that the performance of SOEs, development finance institutions, and social security funds is broadly negative. There is no debate that the state of SOEs leaves much to be desired, and that simply pumping more money into them without dealing with the governance issues that are the root of the problem will yield the same negative result. So the national government's intervention has been to establish a new state holding company that will centralize the operations of the country's commercial SOEs. While this move has been welcomed by some, it has also received a lot of criticism, with many arguing that a state-centric approach to resolving the SOEs crisis is doomed to fail. It has been argued that privatizing SOEs rather than bailing them out will resolve the problem. This argument for privatization go against the global practice when it comes to vital SOEs. In fact, in developed countries, the approach is to commercialize SOEs and provide support to them as a result of the recognition that they are an important instrument for economic and social development. This same principle has been applied to even private companies that are deemed to have strategic value to national and regional economies. In 2008, the world faced a devastating economic recession that was precipitated by the subprime mortgage crisis in the United States of America. The crisis led to a severe global economic recession, with millions losing their jobs and many businesses going bankrupt. The US government intervened with a series of measures to stabilize the financial system. One of the key interventions was the Troubled Asset Relief Program, wherein the government purchased toxic assets and equity from financial institutions to strengthen its financial sector. Toxic assets are financial assets that have fallen in value significantly and for which there is no longer a functioning market. Such assets cannot be sold at the price satisfactory to the holder. The cost to the US government in buying these assets was 426.4 billion. For many people, and certainly for ordinary Americans and human rights activists, this move was deemed problematic as it was essentially a bailout for the same financial institutions that had created the mortgage crisis by facilitating subprime high-risk mortgages to individuals and entities that could not repay them, inevitably leading to unprecedented numbers of borrowing, missing mortgage repayments, and becoming delinquents. The dominant story in the 2008 financial crisis is that of millions of jobs, losses, foreclosures of hundreds of thousands of properties, and the bankruptcy of many businesses across the pond in Europe. Social unrest took place in countries such as Greece and Iceland, which had been devastating and created more problems. But there is another story that is not told, and it is that the US government's intervention in rescuing the financial system by bailing out banks did register some significant successes. The TARP program officially ended on the 19th of December 2014 when the US Treasury sold its remaining holdings of a financial asset. The US government booked about 15.3 billion in profit as it earned about 4.41.7 on the 426.4 billion that it had invested. This profit enabled the country to reinvest in infrastructure development and, importantly, job creation. In 2008, the unemployment rate in the US stood at almost 10%. Today, the country has an unemployment rate of 4.1%. Furthermore, it doubled its gross domestic product from 14.76 billion in 2008 to an expected about 27.78 billion by the end of 2024. So the example of how the US government bailed out financial institutions during the 2008 global recession must be studied in its fullness. SOEs are an important instrument of socio-economic development in South Africa, especially given our country's history. The state is an instrument for inclusive economic growth and development. And in a country where the majority has historically been held at the margins of the economic participation, the state is the only instrument that can even out the playing field and facilitate much needed transformation through these SOEs. Privatizing SOEs is an extreme solution to a problem that can be resolved. Furthermore, the private sector's objectives of profit maximization does not align with the constitutional objective and mandate of redress for a historically disenfranchised people. There are various mechanisms that should be explored to strengthen SOEs in our country and make them viable. The establishment of a state holding company to supervise the management of SOEs and coordinate policy strategies is one. It is necessary to conduct a comprehensive review of SOEs across all spheres of government and specify the conditions under which the state is to use SOEs. The National Treasury and provincial treasuries must rationalize government departments, entities, and programs. The National Treasury estimates that the government will achieve a potential saving of 27 billion in the medium term if it deals with overlapping mandates, closes ineffective programs, and consolidate SOEs where appropriate. Another intervention is the establishment of an independent and transparent process for appointing boards and executives. This is crucial for strengthening governance in SOEs, which is one of the key challenges that we are facing. Finally, the professionalization framework must be implemented in the SOEs. The professionalization framework for the public service developed by the Department of Public Service and Administration is a set of reforms that aim to improve the public service by making it more professional, ethical, and merit-based. The framework applies to the national, provincial, local government, and SOEs. The professionalization of the public service works, and we know this because there are concrete examples that provide us with empirical evidence. Entities such as bulk water utility, Rand Water, which has been professionalized over the years, have registered exceptional performance financially, operationally, and otherwise. The entity is self-sustaining, maintains unqualified audits, and has consistently met and surpasses its key performance indicators. There is value in studying such institutions and benchmarking with them. Successful development states have similar measures which help advance professionalism within the public service. SOEs are a development and a transformation tool and must be supported and strengthened. With the right interventions, they can work. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you very much, Mr. Maile. 2 days in a row, we appreciate your participation in our debate. Honourable members, we now recognise the Honourable Sithole to take the debate forward. Honourable Sithole.
Thank you very much, Honorable House Chair. Honorable House Chair, Honorable MEC, Honorable members, and ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Today we rise to remember Vuyisile Mini, a trade unionist and Umkhonto weSizwe activist who was hanged 60 years ago for his role in the MK and anti-apartheid resistance. Now, I don't want to be misquoted, colleagues. I'm talking about the real Umkhonto weSizwe. As a member of the South African Congress of Trade Unions, he was responsible for the organization of mental workers at a time when the government had increased its repressive measures against black unions. Vuyisile Mini became the first member of the African National Congress to be executed by the apartheid government. He was hanged with Wilson Kayinga and Zanekile Mkhaba. As we celebrate the triumph of freedom over subjugation, the triumph of the democracy, of racial tyranny, and the triumph of hope over despair, we remain forever grateful to them to sacrifice their lives for our liberation. Honorable House Chair, the state-owned enterprise plays a pivotal role in the economy. They also served as a significant vehicle for achieving economic growth and poverty reduction. Importantly, they assist our government to deliver key infrastructure services such as energy, transport, and water that allows the economy to grow while ensuring equity through access and quality of social services to all citizens. While we acknowledge that in the past decades, our SOEs have not been able to live up to their mandate and contribution, they serve as a crucial mechanism towards our nation's social and economic growth, as well as expanding capacity in critical economic sectors. The worsening of the South African economy since 2014 has created further pressure to identify additional interventions that will support implementation of the government's plan. While progress has been made in some areas, more needs to be done to achieve the objective of infrastructure development and economic transformation. Implementing intervention contained in the NDP and the other key policies will be essential to improving the trajectory of the economy. Government has taken a decisive decision to devise key interventions into improve the capacity and performance of the SOEs. This is because ANC government has taken keen interest in restoring our SOEs and putting them on a new trajectory that will ensure that they continue to play a critical role in delivery of basic service and fostering economic growth, generating employment and increasing the fiscal space to address inequality. Honorable House Chair, the challenges SOEs have encountered have limited their ability to drive development in the country. These challenges have illustrated themselves in multiple folds, which have also been intensively documented in the Zondo Commission of State Capture. Some of the notable challenges include high debt, poor governance, political interference in operational matters, and the shortage of critical skills. Furthermore, SOEs have also been noted to have had a huge burden on our fiscus, with the National Treasury transferring billions of rands over the past decades. Thus, the impact of weakened SOE has had severe repercussions that continue to affect us today. In addressing this crisis, numerous entities and individuals have made proposals on reforming SOEs, with the State Capture Report also making the following recommendation. A, the need for sound and effective corporate governance of SOE, and ensuring that an appropriate, robust, and transparent board appointed process is established. B, ensuring that persons appointed to board must have the necessary competency, capacity, experience, integrity, and reputations. Establishment of a body which will be tasked with identification, recruitment, and selection of members of the board, and compliant procurement processes be instituted and adhered to in accordance with Section 217 of the Constitution. In addition, there have been a critical lesson learned over the decade on closing the challenges of SOEs, and these have thus informed many strategic interventions to improve oversight, transparency, and accountability, and build stronger government within the SOEs. In this regard, the President established the Presidential SOE Council to advise on the SOE reform, and Presidential State-Owned Enterprise Council acknowledged the critical development role of the SOE, as well as the serious deficiencies in South African model and SOE operations, including reliance on the fiscus. In this context, recommendations have been made for the implementation of a centralized shareholders model for commercial SOEs, which is backed by the National State Enterprise Bill. This is intended to strengthen supervision, streamline accountability, and guarantee that SOEs are working within their broad development mission through the provision such as establishment of a centralized shareholder model, include the establishment of holding company to be named the State Asset Management SOC Ltd. SAMSOC will be established in terms of the National State Enterprise Bill and incorporated in terms of the Companies Act, and SAMSOC will be 100% state-owned and tasked with providing coordinated oversight and monitoring of performance, and the responsibility attributed to all the subsidiary companies. Honorable Chair, in conclusion, as we approach these tasks and challenges, we should heed the word of Theodore Roosevelt, who said, "It is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbled, or where the doer could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strive violently, who err, who comes short again and again, because there is no effort without error and shortcomings, but who does actually strive to do the deeds, who knows great enthusiasm, the great devotion, who spent himself in a worthy cause, who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least he fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be in those cold and timid souls, who neither knows victory or defeat. We all have a role to play as individual South Africans and in our various political, religious, and sectoral formation. It is our national duty to work together to build this country. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Sithole. Moving forward, colleagues, the next speaker at the podium will be the Honourable Mokoena. Honourable Mokoena.
It's up, MKP, up. Thank you, Honorable Chairperson, honorable members, and also to my dear and beloved MK Party President Jacob Zuma. As we gather here to talk today about something so important, the state-owned enterprises, which have been a long thorn at our side, it comes as no surprise that there's actually no minister. It is the current runnings of the GNU. We are used to ministers not coming to account and nothing gets done about it. The current government has become one like a friend that borrows money every month, makes no changes and somehow still manages to live up to the lap of luxury, while the rest of us wonder where the lights went. You, as the government, have managed to take our SOEs from a promising asset to a national punchline. This government has poured over 300 billion into SOEs like Eskom, SAA, and Transnet. That's a billion. But we're still sitting in the dark. Flights are few and far between, and good luck to moving your stuff across the country. It's as if the government believes that pouring water into a leaky bucket will eventually fill this bucket up. And here we are with the GNU, and the DA is as silent as ever. I guess they are now enjoying the prominence and the luxury of running around in blue lights. We see it, and we note it, and you shall pay for it later. But here's the kicker side. While SOEs guzzle cash like they are on an open bar tab, vital services like health, education, safety are left dry. Our hospitals struggles for supplies, our schools are crumbling, and our police force are spread thinner and thinner. The GNU can prioritize Eskom all at once, but it's hard to flip the switch on education when there's no electricity to power the lights. And as if that wasn't enough, the endless bailouts have shoved our debt GDP ratio to nearly 70%. This government has taken the saying, buy now, pay later, to a whole new level. But unlike those flashy adverts, there's no later payment in this regard, just a growing burden on every poor South African. Eskom has taken roughly 263 billion in the last 5 years and still can't keep the lights on. Imagine giving someone that much money and they hand you back load shedding, or should we call it load reduction as they call it these days. SAA, or should we call it sometimes available airline, after swallowing about 21 billion since 2019, it's barely in the skies. The government loves the SAA so much that it keeps throwing cash at it. But what have we got to show it? A few lifelines, a lot of turbulence. They say love is blind, but this love is super reckless. Transnet was given 5.8 billion, but the rail line are still falling far apart, slowing down the entire economy. They call it logistics company, but right now it feels like they're moving at the speed of a small snail. Businesses are frustrated, South Africans are stuck waiting, and the government is, well, sitting at the station hoping for the train to eventually arrive. And as the government in waiting, that is us, Mkhonto Wesizwe, We have a few initiatives. We have a simple rule for SOEs. Every rand spent will need to be justified. We'll make sure that SOE executives can't hide behind their desk. If they don't meet targets, they'll be asked to explore other career options, something that the ANC has bluntly failed on. Think of it as a spring cleaning, but for SOEs. We also have structured onboarding and development programs. Right from the get-go, new hires should know exactly what organizational culture is about. With a proper onboarding program, we'll ensure that they're set to succeed and actually add value. No more wondering and wondering about and wondering who is responsible for it. Employee development training is also crucial. Instead of throwing money into the black hole, we as the MK party, we will eventually invest in developing our people instead. By creating career advancement paths and filling skill gaps, we will build SOEs that are functional and that are competent when knowing what the word competence is. Workplace diversity and inclusion. We believe in diversity and not just on paper. We as the NCOP party will create a workspace that welcomes different perspectives because frankly, the current one-track thinking has gotten us where we are right now. Yes, with environmental sustaining, we are all about the green, and not just because green is our color as Mkonto, but not also in the sense of money. We will push for sustainable practices in the SOE, recycling, energy conservation, green procurement. If we're spending money, let's all spend it on things that are valuable and have a bigger role. In conclusion, the current government has turned the SOE into a financial sinkhole. We drained resources that should go to the real people. But we, as a government in waiting, we are here to end the circus of waste and mismanagement. And imagine a South Africa where SOEs serve the people and taxpayers, and we see a return on investment. Like back in the days when Jacob Zuma used to be the president of this country. That was the only time that the SOEs actually made money. They actually made money. They were functional. They did not need a constant bailout. Just face the facts and accept it, and you'll all be good. You'll be able to sleep at night. And as for the EFF, you need to go back to the drawing board before you can think you can defeat the MK at any point in time. And for Honorable Badenhorst, I really, really wish that the ANC could take you into a closed room and they make you read again the statement of intent that was signed and what the meaning of actual GNU is. Because when you speak here and talk to us, you actually confuse the whole of South Africa. You are meant to be part of this government. And finally, we are ready to lead with common sense. We are ready to lead with courage, a commitment for real progress. It's time for change in South Africa, and it can come any moment soon. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honourable Mokoena. Mr. Nzimande missed his chance to remain consistent with another point of order there, but noting that, we will move on, honourable members, and invite the Honourable Farmer to come and participate in the debate. Honourable Farmer.
Honourable Chairperson and honourable members, the DA government of the Western Cape is the last to complain of monies that could have been used to service its people. If they can afford a neighborhood like Wallisdean outside of Kraaifontein in Cape Town that has a population of more than 36,000 people, not to have a single water meter, yet water and sewage is running down the streets daily. Thus, if the Western Cape government does not need those services to be paid, they probably don't need the money. SOEs were established with a specific purpose, that is to be of service to the people of South Africa. State-owned enterprises are legal entities created by government to undertake commercial activities on its behalf. As in other countries, SOEs play a critical role in the South African economy and their financial status is an important component of public finance oversight. There has been some confusion in terminology, partly caused by the two main pieces of legislation in this area, the Companies Act and the Public Finance Management Act. State-owned entities are public entities as defined in the PFMA and include a wide variety of organizational forms and objectives. Within these are state-owned enterprises under Schedule 2 of the PFMA, also referred to as government business enterprises and major public entities. The term state-owned company refers to SOEs that are also governed by the Companies Act. Introducing state ownership of enterprise occurs for a variety of broad reasons that are common across many countries. An SOE may resolve a market failure where the private sector does not undertake investment or production in a certain area, despite it yielding a net benefit to society. Another reason is natural monopoly, where government owns an enterprise to limit the negative consequence of monopoly power that arises from a sector structure. Enterprises that are relevant to national security or securing supply of a critical resource are often referred to as strategic and placed under state ownership. Another important role of SOEs has been ensuring equity in citizens' access to critical services or infrastructure. The state plays an important role in the South African economy. SOE's viability is projected to be a pivotal part in leading the transformation agenda by a number of departments because they are spearheading economic development. Nevertheless, the rapid ascendancy of SOEs in driving economic growth has been with negative consequences for the South African economy, with a number of them being viewed as driving nepotism, corruption, and non-aligned state agendas. This has led to conflicts with market-driven economic development of the South African economy and hindering competition between the state-owned enterprises and private-owned enterprises. The department has oversight responsibility in full or in part for all SOEs that exist at the national, provincial, and local levels. Alexco, Denel, Eskom, Transnet, SA Express, South African Forestry Company, South African Broadcasting Corporation. These 7 SOEs employ approximately 105,000 people. The state share of that investment was 21%, while private enterprise contributed 63%. Many state-owned firms were established during the apartheid era to counter the impact of international sanctions against the country. The new ANC policy, however, is aimed at expanding the role of SOEs in the economy, following the example of China. By the end of the Zuma administration in 2018, corruption within South African state-owned enterprises by individuals connected to government, such as the controversial Gupta family, had led to many enterprises facing deep financial difficulty. Nevertheless, the role SOEs should play is still an important one, and everything should be done to assist them. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much indeed, Honourable Farmer. Honourable members, we now move to the MEC for Finance in KwaZulu-Natal Province, and that is the Honourable Francois Rogers. Honourable Rogers, over to you, sir. Honourable Rogers has apparently fallen off the platform. We will see if we can get him to connect again just now. Let's move on then, ladies and gentlemen. We move to the Honourable Mabilo. Honourable Mabilo.
Honourable Chair, the concept of a developmental state is central to the African National Congress vision of an inclusive, resilient, and self-sustaining economy. In this framework, state-owned enterprises are viewed as pivotal to achieving social and economic transformation, driving growth in strategic sectors and providing essential services that foster equitable development. This approach envisions the SOEs as tools to realize the NDP and the developmental goals. The ANC's vision for a developmental state is a vision that is centered around one, the role of the state in the economy, one, state intervention in key sectors, two, economic inclusivity and social equity, three, institutional capacity and ethical governance, four, state-directed innovation in industrialization. These are the visions that are encapsulated in the ANC's broader approach to SOEs vis-a-vis the developmental state. My colleagues are preoccupied and pathologically entrapped in terms of the SOEs. They will highlight only the SOEs that don't perform. But they'll remember, they will conveniently forget that there are more than 50 SOEs. And the MEC of Gauteng has just highlighted SAFCON, which has performed absolutely well. You also take PRASA. PRASA is turning around the corner in terms of ensuring that there is a movement of passengers. You also take this, the CSRR, which has a groundbreaking scientific approach in addressing the current challenges that are faced by the country. So the SOEs are going through a challenge, and as an ANC, we are not having an ostrich approach where we hide our head in the sand. Okay. We are robust, we confront the broader challenges. One,
Honourable Mabilo, won't you take your seat for a moment, please? Honourable Badenhorst.
Will the member take a question?
No, I will not waste the time with a question. Thank you very much.
Please continue then, Honourable Mabilo.
The Sanral as well. Let's look at our road networks. Massive infrastructure investment in the roads across the country. We have just undertaken oversight, a visit to the Free State. Moving just the national roads, we were extremely impressed by the role that Sanral has played. So we, as the ANC, we are committed to the success of the SOEs in this country. So the way forward around the SOEs, one is that there must be an economic approach to the whole notion of the SOEs, and the governance structure must be ensured they are successful, free from corruption, free from investment, from interference, etc. But our approach is linked also to the Millennium Development Goals that are necessary, as South Africa is a signatory to such goals as far as the SOEs are concerned. One, in terms of Transnet must continue to advance expanding logistics infrastructure in the country, which is part of the Sustainable Development Goal number 9, which deals with industry, innovation, and infrastructure. Two, the water boards, the run water must advance access to clean water in line with the Sustainable Development Goal number 6, which deals on clean water and sanitation. Three, I have mentioned the passenger rail, which falls under public transport, Sustainable Development Goal number 11 on sustainable cities and communities. 6, Sanral, which falls under Sustainable Development Goal number 8 on decent work and economic growth. Number 6, Centec, in line with the Sustainable Development Goal number 4, which deal with quality education. Therefore, as the ANC-led government, we are committed to salvaging the SOEs in this country, and they've got a pivotal role to play both at national level, at provincial level, and at local government level. The key way forward is that public and private partnership must be enhanced to ensure that we supplement the SOE's resources, fostering collaboration and innovation while sharing financial burdens. Such partnership can be advantageous in different sectors. 1, infrastructure development. 2, in risk sharing. 3, systematic and structural improvement on the challenges. The key issue in terms of the way forward, Honorable Chairperson, is the question of transformation in the sector and in the SOEs. 1, there must be zero tolerance for corruption. 2, we must strengthen governance and accountability in all our state-owned enterprises. The ANC remains committed to enhancing the recruitment processes for leadership positions in the state-owned enterprises, focusing on skills, experience, integrity, and capacity to deliver. We must continue to establish transparent procurement processes in the entire SOE value chain. We must strengthen partnership with civil society and private sector. The ANC is committed to collaborate with civil society organizations to monitor government projects and support anti-corruption campaigns. Partnership with private sector entities are also encouraged to promote ethical business practices and hold both private and public actors accountable for their involvement in the state-owned enterprise. In conclusion, Honorable Chairperson, in South Africa's quest to become a developmental state, the state-owned enterprises are indispensable in driving economic transformation and fostering an inclusive economy. By aligning the state-owned enterprises with both national and global developmental goals, promoting government control in key sectors, and engaging in strategic public-private partnership, our country can harness the potential of all its state-owned enterprises to meet critical social and economic objectives. Addressing socio-economic issues within the state-owned enterprises remains critical, essential, and strategic for restoring public trust and ensuring that these enterprises no, I still have 2 minutes. These public enterprises contribute effectively to the national developmental goals, ultimately fulfilling the vision of a capable, ethical, and transformative state. We as the ANC are presenting a compelling case to the country to say the state-owned enterprises are in safe hands. We are turning the corner. We continue to make an impact in the lives of our people. We will not cease. We will not cede the public-owned enterprises to the vagaries of individuals. We'll continue to strengthen the sector itself, because all those who have been speaking here, they can speak because they are not, having the responsibility that we have. We've got a responsibility to ensure that we deliver on the key challenges of the country. We've got to reduce unemployment. We've got to create jobs through the SOEs. We've got to reduce the high food prices. So that is our role and responsibility as the ANC in this dispensation. SOEs are the future, and we are confident of that. Thank you, Honorable Chair. Thank you.
For that, Mr. Mabilo. Without further scrutiny, let's move on to the Honorable Skierkogel, who will take us through his arguments in this debate. Honorable Skierkogel.
Yes, it will be mentioned here. Chairperson, honourable members, fellow South Africans. Section 41(1)(h) of the South African Constitution emphasize that all spheres of government and their organs must cooperate in mutual trust and good faith. Unfortunately, state-owned enterprises have violated this principle by misusing public funds, undermining basic service delivery that directly impact the lives of ordinary South Africans. The endless cycle of bailouts for failing SOEs has drained vital resources, leaving local government in crisis. Central to the Democratic Alliance policy is that public funds must be spent transparently, responsibly, and effectively to benefit you, South Africans. Deserves safe streets, clean water, reliable energy, and resilient public infrastructure. These are basic rights, not privileges. Yes, yet the misallocation and misuse of public funds to SOEs has consistently undermined the government's ability to deliver on these responsibilities. Since 2008, and just to remind our members in green, that's when Zuma came in, struggling SOEs have received 520 million in bailouts. And to Honorable Kwena, under Zuma, almost 60% went to SOEs. But their performances have not improved. Eskom, for example, has received the largest share of these funds, and yet they want to increase electricity tariffs by 36.15%, which in plain words will mean that in 2025, you will pay 2,960 more on electricity monthly. And just this week, we discovered that Eskom wasted a staggering 840 million on an abandoned Volga project in Mpumalanga. Homes, schools, hospitals, and business are suffering, and communities lost out on opportunities for growth due to load shedding. Small businesses closed, jobs were lost, and young people's futures are dimmed. All while local governments, which are directly responsible for delivering essential services, receive minimal funding to address their growing needs. The DA proposes a shift in priorities. Instead of continuing to prop up failing enterprises, we must focus on investing in municipalities and local governments that serve the immediate needs of communities. Public funds, your taxes, should go towards services directly improving your quality of life, such as infrastructure, waste management, water and electricity. Every bailout is a direct trade-off, taking money away from these critical services in exchange of bailing out SOEs that are not delivering their mandate. Take Eskom as culprit number one as an example. The funds is received for bailouts could have been better spent on improving local infrastructure, repairing potholes, maintaining parks, or ensuring consistent waste collection. Municipalities are left with little to no resources to explore sustainable energy solutions or manage local water supplies. As a result, communities face daily power outages due to crumbling infrastructure and water shedding. An entire municipality unable to access clean water or dealing with sewage flowing in their homes. These failures jeopardize health, safety, and environmental stability. The situation is also dire to our local municipalities' infrastructure. Many municipalities can't maintain roads, public buildings, or recreational facilities because they stretch thin to funding SOEs. Poor road conditions lead to increased accidents, difficulty accessing work or healthcare, and further strain on community. Waste piles up in our streets, creating hazards and undermining the quality life for South Africans. The most vulnerable of our communities, those who are unemployed, elderly, ill, suffer the most of this imbalance. These local governments are underfunded. It's these citizens who bear the brunt of these failures. They cannot afford to seek private services, and they rely on the government to provide these basics. It's time for change. We must stop the endless cycle of SOE bailouts and start investing in our people. The DA calls for policy shift and prioritizing communities and ensures accountability, demand effective management of resources. We believe that the funding should be directed to the sectors that impact every South African: schools, hospitals, local infrastructure, and sustainable energy solutions. This will help rebuild trust and create resilient communities. As I conclude, we want to build a South Africa that works for everyone, not just a few. We want to ensure that our government works for its people. It's time to stop funding failing institutions and investing in our communities to make our country strong. I thank you.
Thank you very much. Honourable Dr. Skierkogel, staying with the Free State, let's move on and get inputs from the Honourable Breert. Honourable Breert.
Sure, it's a marathon from that side of the House. Honourable Chair, House Chair, a simple search with reference to SOCs and SOCs does not a Hallmark movie make. It is, as a matter of fact, a very good horror film. The widely available data clearly indicates that the never-ending tax-funded SOE bailouts have a great negative impact and end up causing more harm than good to the South African economy. Business Tech estimates that since 2020, South African taxpayers have spent more than 325 billion rand on bailing out failing SOEs, and National Treasury has set the accumulated baseline reductions to national, provincial, and local government at 457 billion rand over the last 10 years. Imagine how much we could have done with that money. How many health, education, human settled, police, transport departments would have been assisted. The sectors that saw significant reductions in allocations due to other priorities are community development, that saw a reduction of 139 billion rand between 2016 and 2023. That is human settlements, public transport, basic services, and some infrastructure grants. Peace and security lost 71 billion rand, and the majority of that was lost to police, defence, and correctional services. And then, of course, provincial health and the education sector also suffered. Though bailouts serve as a short-term financial relief to SOEs, not only the South African taxpayer, but all citizens, to keep these dying SOEs alive, while simultaneously doing nothing to prevent more future wasteful expenditure, the South African government, by implication, is giving their consent to the hard-working citizens of this country to pay the price of this government's mismanagement, corruption, and inability to prioritize the actual needs of the citizens they were elected to govern. More needs to be done to create corruption-proof systems that actually address the root of the problem, instead of simply plugging another hole in an already struggling ship that is South Africa. Without any corruption-proof reforms and accountability measures, SOEs will continue to be a constant drain on the South African taxpayers. These bailouts do nothing to further investor confidence, as they show the international world that the government is not serious about holding these enterprises to account, nor are they willing to do what is necessary to prevent them from happening. Well, this was prior to the GNU. We will see, and time will only learn if this betters. Furthermore, the data also indicates that these constant bailouts crowds out the private sector, and distorts the market, as the failing enterprises take up the majority of resources, government support, and market space, making it very hard for private business to thrive. What is as bad and maybe even worse is in a recent article by News 24, it was reported that of the 280 billion rand in bailouts pumped into these failing SOCs, nearly 70 billion rand of that was spent irregularly. What is the point of bailing out these entities if they cannot spend their bailouts effectively enough to prevent future bailouts? These bailouts are snowballing into a much bigger crisis that just lack of investor in another necessary fields like health and education, but tremendously affecting our fiscus negatively. It was found that the lack of capital investment of these SOEs has affected their ability to generate revenue while operating costs continue to grow. These SOEs have also failed to implement their turnaround plans, all this leading to more requests for more bailouts, more borrowing of money, and so on and so forth, and the evil circle continues. As I conclude, the answer is quite simply put. To restore South Africa, we need to build South Africa. We need the political will to address the problems facing SOEs, and that might not be to spend more money on unnecessary bailouts of enterprises that are actually supposed to be self-sustaining. I thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Honourable Breurt. Let's move on now to the MEC for Finance in the Eastern Cape, Honourable Mvoko. Honourable Mvoko.
Thank you very much, Honourable Chairperson. As the province of the Eastern Cape, we acknowledge the critical role of SOEs in facilitating economic growth and market integration, both within the country and across the global markets. This is achieved through investing in the necessary economic infrastructure to improve energy supply, logistics, and communication networks to facilitate market development and local industrial development. The historical economic centers are not fully integrated with the rest of the province due to the lack of logistical infrastructure. The current Special Planning and Land Use Management Act can be enhanced through integrating the various provinces' special development frameworks if the SOEs such as Transnet are able to develop logistical infrastructure connecting these. The master plans of these SOEs should therefore be aligned with the provincial plans to improve development in provinces such as the Eastern Cape. This leaves provinces, therefore, to be responsible for more than the social constitutional mandates and policies, but economic as well. So the budget cuts we have experienced to bail out SOEs have had an impact in our efforts to fund the industrial capacity and logistical infrastructure needed to be able to contribute to the national GDP. Whilst we understand the need to bail out SOEs, stabilize their balance sheets, and implement turnaround plans, this should enable SOEs to be more proactive in strategically integrating the provinces and their entities towards a dynamic and integrated microeconomic framework for the country, including an IGR structure to oversee it. For the Eastern Cape, these budget cuts did not only impact social services, but also impacted the ability of the provinces to harness our comparative advantage on agriculture and tourism. This further impacted on the road infrastructure, which are funded by national transfers. Over the past 30 years, a critical component of the state's transformational agenda has been about formulating and implementing policies, strategies, and programs that are aimed at overcoming economic inequalities and underdevelopment that were the consequence of the previous apartheid government. Accordingly, as part of their broader economic mandate, various national SOEs are expected to be supportive of these developmental aspirations. To achieve such aspirations and such objectives, it necessitates a difficult act of striking an optimal balance in rolling out social versus economic development programs. However, obtaining that optimal balancing at times places a higher cost burden on their financial resources and balance sheets. It's our considered view that as government, we must find lasting solutions to sustain our fiscal consolidation measures. as it may not augur well to continue with these bailouts to state-owned entities that should, from their very nature, generate income for government as opposed to provinces that have very limited revenue generating opportunities. Provinces are faced with cost pressures on health, education, and socio-economic infrastructure backlogs and rely solely on the fiscus to fund this. With the disclosure of budget cuts to the provinces, it's requested that national treasurers must disclose the budget cuts for areas which include, among other, fiscal consolidation and debt repayments. The disclosure of this information should be made in the annual budget for the province to reflect the provincial contributions to the total public debt. Whereas Section 29 of the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa states that everyone has a right to a basic education, including adult basic education. Such a right requires resources to be effected, human and or financial. However, the fiscal consolidation policy has unintended consequences on the realization of the obligations imposed by Section 29 of the Constitution. The health sector is also facing budgetary pressures, mainly from shortfalls due to budget cuts, increasing accruals and payables, and increasing the medical legal claims and additional appointments to address a number of pressing matters. While the bailouts can be attributed to mismanagement at the SOEs, the parent departments should take a greater role in overseeing these SOEs. Previously, the SOEs were coordinated by the national department, but were also reporting to and managed by their parent department. These fragmented arrangements contributed to the lapse in management and oversight of these entities, which resulted in the bailouts. We therefore support the reconfiguration and improved governance and oversight of these SOEs. We in the Eastern Cape are continuing with the rationalization of public entities and developing governance frameworks for the categorization of and standardization of remuneration of board members. We think that this will lead to better performance by the state-owned entities. I thank you, Honorable Chairperson.
Thank you very much, MEC Mvoko. Honourable members, we now move to Mpumalanga. Perhaps in line with Mr. Modise's inputs yesterday about who gets to speak in debates, we're going to the chairperson for the Oversight Committee on Health, the Honourable Mhlongo. Honourable Mhlongo.
Thank you very much, Honourable Deputy Chairperson, Honourable Members of Parliament. It is both honor and duty to address this esteemed House regarding the state-owned enterprises and their profound impact on our national budget and economic development. Honourable Deputy Chair, we welcome the opportunity to participate in this debate of SOEs, bailout and budget impacts. Our input is promised that the foundational purpose of the state-owned enterprises, no argument over many years discounted the importance of SOEs in development states, even during the harsh times of the majority of citizens of this nation. The apartheid regime used the state-owned enterprises to intervene, selectively manner in favor the few of their own. The democratic government recalled the great purpose of SOEs and modeled them to serve the purpose outlined in the democratic developmental agenda. Honorable Deputy Chair, we were never about the narrow approach of the foreign regime, of the former regime. We are about placing a state-owned enterprise on a developmental tragedy favoring the great majority of the people of South Africa. Honorable Deputy Chair, the state-owned entities must continue to play a role in both domestic and global market as unemployed and undernourished and underrepresented economy. We are unable to view the state-owned enterprises, must support the responsibility with strict measures to safeguard the public resources invested for the purpose of greater economic well-being of the country. We are of the views that SOEs must be enough to recapitalize and establish them to play their developmental role with the state leading turnaround strategy to ensure these entities thrive and ultimately contribute to the economic growth and the developmental society. Honorable Deputy Chair, in our province, we have an entity called Mpumalanga Economic Regulator. This is not an entity that comes with a ball to request government support only. It is amongst the highest contributor of the province fiscal every year. Entities like this serve a multiple interest, but are also having a developmental posture. Bailout is wrong if it is made for the wrong interest. Being in close proximity with entities elsewhere give one a reason to understand the debate today. We must preserve the interventionist opinion available in the state-owned model. We must preserve the interventional available in the state-owned model. Greater transparency is needed in the decision-making process of the state-owned entity. And however, Honorable Deputy Chairperson, it is important to understand the economic impact of the budget bailout of the state-owned enterprises on essential public services such as education, health, public is profound. When significant portions of the national budget are allocated to bail out struggling SOEs, it is often resulting in reduced funding for the critical sectors. This can lead to a decline in quality education as schools may face shortages of teachers, learners, materials and infrastructure improvements. In the health sector, budget constraints can result in inadequate medical supplies, not enough hospitals, and longer waiting times for patients, and also affecting the overall health outcomes of the population. Similarly, the police force may experience lack of resources, leading to insufficient personnel, outdated equipment, and compromised public safety. Therefore, while SOEs play a crucial role in development economy, it is essential to balance their financial support with the needs of vital public services to ensure holistic national growth in the development. In our province, we have Mpumalanga Economic Regulator, which amplifies the potentials of SOEs. The entity is not a mere petitioner of the government. It is a significant contributor to the provincial fiscal each year. Therefore, let us commit to harness and potential of our state-owned enterprises to ensure they remain provincial and driving economic growth and serving greater good of the South African. In face of the greatest challenges facing some of the most important SOEs, we must explore innovative ways to align monetary policy and funding needs of the SOEs. Honorable Deputy Chair, what we are advocating is the balanced approach that ensures the greater majority are not affected by the decision we make. The province welcomes the effort and implement various reforms by the National Treasury. Deputy Chairperson, I thank you very much for the time given to us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable MEC Mhlongo. Honourable members, we now move to and invite the Honourable Ban Prakash to continue the debate. Honourable Ban Prakash.
Thank you, Honourable Chairperson. Greetings to honourable members and fellow South Africans. The South African economy remains severely constrained, plagued by failing infrastructure, mainly due to climate change, lower commodity-driven revenue, and a bloated wage bill. Today, I address another pressing issue that deeply affects the livelihoods of our citizens in KwaZulu-Natal and beyond: the detrimental impact of state-owned enterprises, bailouts on critical frontline government departments, mainly education, health, and police services. As elected officials, we have a responsibility to ensure that state resources are allocated in a manner that puts the well-being of our citizens ahead of everything else. Unfortunately, we have witnessed an alarming trend in the recent years where substantial funds are being diverted to bail out failing SOEs, leaving essential services in dire straits. Take the case of Eskom, for example. The government allocated 23 billion to Eskom in 2021 as part of its bailout strategy. While intention to stabilize the power supply, this funding came at a significant cost. In the same budget cycle, the Department of Education faced a staggering shortfall of 2.1 billion, affecting infrastructure projects and critical resources for our schools. Our children deserve better, yet they are left to suffer the consequences of mismanaged enterprises. In the media statement released on 16th October 2024 by the Standing Committee of Appropriations, there were concerns that by the year 2025-2026, the power utility will have received a staggering 496 billion in bailouts since 2008-2009. This means that close to $500 billion that could have been used to advance service delivery were diverted to bail out an entity whose performance remained fragile. Honorable Chairperson, let us not forget the dire state of our healthcare system. The COVID-19 pandemic exposed vulnerabilities within our public health infrastructure. In 2022, the Department of Health requested an increase of 6 billion to bolster its services, but only 3 billion was allocated. Meanwhile, the government announced an additional 12 billion bailouts to SAA, notwithstanding that the airline continued to operate at a loss. It is estimated that the entity received a total of 48.2 billion over 6 years and still went into business rescue. Yet our hospitals are in desperate need for funding, for equipment and personnel, but we continue to prioritize SOEs that have shown little accountability. Moreover, our police services are similarly impacted. In the past few years, crime rates have surged, yet the budget for South African police remains inadequate. The 2023 budget allocated 104 billion for policing, but it estimated that we need at least 20 billion to effectively tackle crime. Instead, the 10 billion earmarked for the bailout of Transnet could have been used for better community safety initiatives and provide police force with the necessary resources to protect our citizens. It is time to question our priorities. Are we willing to sacrifice the education of our youth, the health of our communities, and the safety of our streets for the sake of propping up failing state-owned enterprises? The ongoing bailouts reflect a failure of leadership and misallocation of resources that we can no longer afford. We must advocate for a balanced approach that prioritizes frontline services instead of perpetually bailing out SOEs. We should focus on restructuring them for better efficiency and accountability. We must insist on transparency in how public funds are utilized and ensure that our budget decisions reflect the urgent needs of our citizens. In conclusion, I urge my fellow South Africans, fellow members, to consider the implications of continued SOS bailouts on our essential services. Let us work together to redirect our funding priorities to education, health, and public safety. Our citizens are counting on us to make the right choices, to advocate for their needs, to build a better future for all. I thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honourable Ban Prakash. Honourable members, we now stay online and moving to the Northwest MEC for Economic Development, Environment, Conservation and Tourism. We now invite the Honourable Lenkopane to participate. Honourable Lenkopane.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson of the session, honorable members of the NCOP, protocol observed, Dumelang Bagaetsho. Our Chairperson, the Northwest government hold a strong view that the state-owned enterprise in South Africa are critical to development, particularly economic development. Recently, our SOEs at all levels are subject of debate and are in the public media for wrong reasons. Across the globe, many countries use SOEs to spearhead the implementation of the key economic development programs and invariably are confronted with many challenges along the way. Hence, there is literature around the measures to strengthen SOEs. South Africa is no exception, although with significant uniqueness given to the specifics of our challenges. Many of these SOEs fail to live the expectation of our communities, while others are successful in executing the mandate. Honorable Chairperson, undoubtedly, there are those that are truly qualified to be regarded as too big, too failent. This is precisely because of their poor performance and has significantly impact on the entire economy. Therefore, the continued desire to turn around this SOEs, including finding such endeavors, may be asked for. However, the very bailout practice has its own impact on the fiscus and therefore requires unequivocal attention on the causes of the root causes that makes our entities to fail. Chief amongst these causes is leadership, which lands these entities in many failures. On our Chairperson, the future role of SOEs depend on their ability to form the bedrock of the economy while remaining efficient and internationally competitive. This requires them to be strategic about the research and experimental development activities that they perform continually and the capabilities necessary for such work. As a result, the executive plays various roles in its relationship with SOEs. Our Chairperson, government as an owner and a shareholder is concerned with obtaining a suitable return on investment and ensuring the financial viability of SOEs. Government as a policy maker is concerned with the policy implementation of service delivery. And finally, government as a regulator is concerned with the industry practice of SOEs pricing structures and the interest of consumers. Honorable Chairperson, in the past 10 years, government has granted SOEs with the 326 billion bailouts. Worth noting is that 2.4 billion of the amount has been reported as fruitless and wasteful expenditure, while 69.9 billion is reported as irregular expenditure by the AG. Furthermore, the DBSA and Telkom has been reported as only entities that have managed to receive clean audit for 3 years. Based on the above, Chairperson, this should trigger the curiosity to deeply reflect on whether bailouts is the relevant mechanism to give life to the poorly performing entities, whilst there are persistent underlying challenges such as structural and operational inefficiencies, lack of effective oversight, as well as lack of accountability. Honorable Chairperson, these are key issues that have led our SOEs to be where we are today. Thus, bailing them out without paying full attention to these underlying issues will never produce an intended outcome. Bailing them under current conditions is more like reinforcement of bad behavior. Moreover, that we also need to engage on comparative advantages and disadvantages of having all these SOEs under government And the debate will assist in deciding whether these SOEs that the state cannot do without, what are those SOEs that can be run through private-public partnership, and what are those that do not serve any purpose which must be closed down. Such discussions will assist the shareholder and will ease the financial constraints of the public purse and will boost and improve allocations to other essential services as well as provincial and local allocations. Considering that the current bailout does not produce any returns on investment, the SOEs are supposed to be self-sufficient and profitable. However, in our country, SOEs have been making losses, which has made it impossible to sustain themselves. Honorable Chairperson, as a way forward, the government must review its bailing out model and include stricter conditions when bailing out entities, such that the process is not viewed as a norm or a culture that has to happen. As the poor performance of SOEs has a direct impact on the quality of life of South Africans, the performance of government and the trust that citizens have in government. The bailing out has contributed to an increase in government borrowing and other related costs such as debt servicing costs. Furthermore, the country has witnessed reduction in allocations due to other priorities such as community development, where we have 139 billion between financial years 2016-17 and 22-23, public transport and basic services, some infrastructure grants, and peace and security 1 billion between 16-17 and 22-23, mainly defense force and correctional services. Honorable Chairperson, the feasibility and opportunity cost of bailing out poor performing SOEs is a concern, as the continuation of bailouts granted to the struggling entities take resources away from the social services like housing, education, and healthcare. Honorable Chair, South Africa can learn from its BRICS partners like China on how it has been able to manage the SOEs. Following the socio-economic and political reforms brought by leaders like Deng Xiaoping, after the chaos of the Cultural Revolution, China embraced the market socialist economy, which enabled it to incrementally build its own state entities. Honorable Chairperson, according to the 2020 World Economic Forum, SOEs are an important component of China's political and economic governance. Although their contribution to national output has shrunk by 40%, but the SOE is still considered to be substantial building blocks to Chinese economy and act as a buffer against the internal and the external threats. After the COVID-19, which has exacerbated the SOE's performance in China, the leadership of China took practical steps to restore the SOE's efficiency by implementing the following important interventions. The government recognized that SOEs were not necessarily flexible and efficiently run. The state intervention in underperforming SOEs was redefined. The government then identified different categories of SOEs, their geographical location and impact on the economy. Improving governance of the SOEs was identified as one of the critical interventions, and the policy of Zuada Fangxiao, which simply means grab the big and release the small, was implemented. The policy resulted in the merger and privatization of small SOEs, which were costly to be supervised, and the holding companies previously owned by the state agencies and operating in similar fields were transferred to holding companies wholly owned by the state-owned Assets Supervision and Administrative Commission. As we speak today, Chairperson, there are 97 giant holding directly owned by the central government in China, which constitute a bulk of the total assets owned by the state and are considered to be the most strategically significant enterprises. The government of China has now entered into a performance-based contract with CEOs of SOEs Boards of independent directors have been appointed in order to ensure accountability, and evidence currently indicate that companies failing under the supervision and administration commission are showing signs of superior governance compared to their privately owned counterparts. Honorable Chairperson, as I conclude, allow me to urge that the importance of the SOEs in the economy of South Africa as a developing country cannot be overemphasized. SOEs contributes toward the GDP of the country, the job creation, and such. Some SOEs like your ESCOM, they render important services which is tightly linked with the economy of this country. However, the stringent measures and a complete government framework on SOEs needs to be introduced. South Africa
Thank
can
you.
learn.
Honourable MEC, your time has expired. I have given you a little bit extra. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honourable Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, MEC. Thankfully, honourable members, we now return to the House, and the next to take up the podium will be the Honourable Brits. Honourable Brits.
Honourable Chair, honourable members and fellow South Africans. We listened to various points of view today, so let me reply to some points made. Let us, for once and for all, address the elephant in the room and address the cause of the current dire state of South Africa's national finances. Bailouts to SOEs. This started under the Zuma administration. Former ANC president and current MK handler and his state capture years, the lost decade. And now it is left to the 7th administration to redress the economic and social imbalances caused during these stolen years. Now let us be very clear about state finances. Contrary to what the EFF believes, there is no such thing as state-owned money. The Reserve Bank can't just print more money. That is not how money is generated, unless you desire super inflation.
Honourable Brits, please take your seat. Honourable Mokoena, on what point are you rising?
Thank you, Chair. It's not a point of order. I'm wondering if he is able to take a question.
Honourable Brits, will you take a question?
No, Honourable Chair.
No, thank you. Honourable Brits, please continue with your speech.
Thank you. Thank you, Honourable Chair. I will draw a picture. Listen very carefully. The money that the state spends is money collected by SARS from individuals, taxpayers, whether from ordinary employees trying to make ends meet with their salaries, or from small, medium, and large enterprises attempting to create employment opportunities and contribute to the economy, while they are further hindered to do so by unnecessary red tape and dubious labor requirements. Now listen very carefully. Money spent by the state comes from the pockets of South African citizens and businesses. Previous governments in recent years showed little respect for taxpayers' money, especially in the case of bailouts to SOEs. The result is that the government has run out of money and needs to borrow in the open market. The price of borrowing with a junk credit rating is not cheap. It is 22 cents out of every rand, to be precise. And this annual borrowing is eating up money that could have been spent on crucial service delivery projects. Borrowing and corruption, like we've seen, are the key ingredients for disastrous economic concoction. And let us be very clear on this. Honourable Gericke, people can't eat political ideologies. They desperately need a stable and thriving economy built on a solid fiscal foundation. The further result of generous bailouts to SOEs, as set out by previous speakers, is the serious effect it has on other frontline state departments, such as education, health, and the police. The SOEs are supposed to make money as businesses on their own and generate money for the state. Instead, they became a millstone around the neck, suffocating economic growth and killing employment opportunities. Now, how do we turn the tide? The turnaround strategy rests on maintaining macroeconomic stability, implementing structural reforms that reduce economic bottlenecks, building state capacity by fostering the environment necessary for economic growth and job creation, as well as investment in public infrastructure. But economic growth and job creation will only be possible when the state reduces fruitless and unproductive expenditure, such as bailouts to SOEs. The DA welcomes the tough love approach to more bailouts to struggling SOEs, who in many instances were responsible for their own decline during stolen economic years and directly caused important state departments to suffer budget cuts, resulting in not having enough money left for crucial service delivery. The time, South Africans, for economic reform to kickstart the economy and redress the stolen years of state capture is upon us. And a good start to budget stability is zero further bailouts to SOEs. Honourable Chair, I thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Brits. Honourable members, we now move to the Honourable Modise from Gauteng. Honourable Modise.
You want some water?
No, I'm fine. There is here. No, there is here. Western Cape has. House Chair, I stand on the already established protocol. And firstly, let me indicate without any fear of contradiction that I want to applaud Member Badenhorst to have seen to it that the DA delegation is in the house and not addressing us through the TV, because they're just 10 minutes away from here. Yeah, thank you for doing that. Thank you very much. Thank you for doing that. Chair, the delegate from the Western Cape, I'm appealing that he takes this house very serious. And please make this note, because you're going to speak after me. I'm challenging you to respond to this. It's fine. He must not lie here, Chair. The delegate stands here and tell the House and the people of South Africa that it is only Western Cape that is not going to shed teachers. And every other province, they're going to cut the teachers. In actual fact, you must read what the Minister of Education has said. It is the Western Cape, Chair, that is going to shed 2,407 teachers in the next financial year, 2025. It's the Western Cape and not any other province. So we must not come here and create stories. And it is because of these things that one understands why Western Cape time and again wants us to believe that they're best run municipalities, that the best run province, because they rely on lies and not the truth. Chair, you know, when I read the topic, I did not prepare any speech because I believed that the discussion here are going to be so much that one does not have to debate and just come here and confirm this or that. But seated there, I was forced to draft something because what is happening here must be told that is not true. You see, Chair, the honesty of the matter under discussion is that building a capable, developmental, and ethical state, it's critical to achieve a better life for all. The ANC seeks to achieve a developmental state shaped by the history of socio-economic dynamics of South African society, to guide national economic development and to mobilize domestic and foreign capital and other social partners to achieve this goal. It is through the state-owned enterprises that South Africa can stimulate and drive economic growth and distribution to address the triple challenges that have been engulfing this country for decades, since 1652. The socio-economic disparities caused by the apartheid colonialism, separate development, has resulted in many areas of our country having a backlog of access to electricity, effective transport system, and limited investment to serve the majority of South Africans. It is the government task to bridge the gap left by the apartheid colonialism for good public. Government has constitutional obligation to realize the rights of all, to regulate, facilitate, and act as a catalyst for equity, economic prosperity, and ecological sustainability. The ANC-led government is not naive nor complacent about corrupt activities that are happening in our enterprises. To eradicate corruption and maladministration, especially in the state-owned enterprises, The ANC has resolved to expedite the implementation of state capture recommendations. While many have been achieved, the National Development Plan identifies state-owned entities as the engine of economic development, the critical economic infrastructure and service provided to the economy, supports jobs in manufacturing, trade and exports, and gives citizens basic goods and services like water and sanitation, energy and transport. Hence, it is critical to harness their existence and make efforts to support them with financial and non-financial means. The alienation of the enterprises from fiscal funding poses a great threat to the 2030 National Development Plan vision. It was President Ramaphosa who said during the meeting with the chairpersons of SOEs, and I quote, "It is quite clear that the success of our economic recovery relies on the effective functioning of state-owned entities. We're implementing reforms to ensure that SOEs are able to adapt to new economic conditions, including rapid developments in technology, their respective operating environments, and changing global trends to serve the country well in the future." In agreeing with President Ramaphosa, Mr. Nico Ntema of Nico Ntema Foundation based in Sharpeville had this to say, and I quote, "It is very wrong to look at SOEs as the same apples in the same box. They may be apples, but some are stacking, some are golden delicious, or even grace meats. These are not the same kind of apples. Any intervention to bail them out must never be blanket approach, as all SOEs are different and unique in their own ways, and challenges they face are unique as well. So their bailouts must never be seen as having a negative impact, as any shareholder devise appropriate means to save their entities. Even in the private sector, business rescue interventions are meant to do just that, to bail out struggling entities for whatever challenges they face. And just this year, we have had about 1,000 liquidation in the private sector, while others have been rescued for various different reasons. Why can't we say every liquidation must just happen to any company that needs liquidated? On the other hand, SOEs are not the private entities, and these interventions should not be done without preempting the impact has been negative. And by looking at how challenged SOE are, it shows how some hidden intentions to paint them with the same brush as failures, and thus be allowed to fold so that they can be privatized and get shifted to developmental mandate, close quote. That's not me, that's Mr. Ntema and his understanding. To date, the NPA Investigative Directorate has taken 34 capture and corruption cases to court involving 200 accused persons. Freezing orders of 14 billion have been granted, and around 8.6 billion in corruption proceeds have been returned to the state. Government funding of state-owned enterprises is not a bailout, but a measure of government to capitalize on SOEs to meet their developmental objectives and financial obligations. Not this economic truth that Member Badenhorst has fed us here, comparing two malusis. The DA malusi that Member Badenhorst referred to is a typical DA member that have been hidden from the public for some time. Same with the racist host that was withdrawn from the public, from the National Assembly after the public outcry. The DA Malus is in court and is out on bail because he was arrested, charged, and appeared before court. Deputy Chair.
On a point of order, Honorable Deputy Chair.
Sorry, Honorable Modise, could you take a seat?
The Honorable Speaker is misleading the House.
What rule are you standing on?
The rule that a member may not mislead the House.
What rule is that? Please take your seat. Please take your seat. Let the Honorable member continue. Okay. Continue, Honorable Modise. Take your seat, please, until you find your rule.
Whilst he's looking for the rule, Chair.
Then I will return.
Whilst he's looking for the rule, this is what Tembinkosi Josopu of Cape Town said on this topic. He says, and I quote, "SOE aid an economy of the state if well run, and also assist the state in its effort to industrialize. For example, we know that the UK and the US are the first countries to industrialize. They did so through state companies until they became leading industrial players in the world. And until they did what Hu Jintang calls kicking the ladder, meaning discouraging the state to intervene in the economy through its companies. Furthermore, this is how Asian tigers grew their economies. Japan is the case in point, and now China. In the main, should the state decide to sell assets such as Eskom, Transnet, Prasa, instead of bailing them out, such may cause the strain on the poor and the middle class. As we all know that should this be in the private hands, there may be issues of affordability, which will impact many people's livelihoods. This is because bailing SOE out means
Honourable
many poor South Africans.
You gave me the opportunity to look at the
Can
rule,
you take your seat, please?
and I'm rising on a point of order.
On what rule?
Thank you, Honourable Deputy Chair. I rise on Rule 61B, 1B, 61, 1B. No delegate may deliberately make a statement which the delegate knows to be false. The Honourable Speaker referred to a person and he said it's a DA member that's in court. There is no such person who is a DA member that's in court because that person referred to is not a DA member. And that was pointed out by the Honourable Badenhorst. So
Thank you very much. We will look into that.
Deliberately making statements that he knows to be false.
Thank you. Continue, Honourable Modise.
I see a hand there.
I see another hand. Honourable Mokoena.
Chair, when I asked for him to answer a question, it was because he was doing exactly what he's saying Honourable Modise is doing, stating
No.
things as facts.
No.
when they were
You are
not
now
facts.
debating. Continue, Honourable Modise.
I don't know what is it that because member Barenos is the one who spoke about two malusis. So you are refusing him today. It's fine, no problem. But he's listening wherever he is. Yeah, that's the thing. You want to know about our malus. Our malus is not in court. You go and open a case. Go and open a case. Chair, in comparison of financial support for SOE and contrasting it to the negatively impact other frontline government departments such as education, health, police, and others due to budget shortfalls is a false comparison. Deputy Chair, I don't know if you have interacted with her, but Ms. Julie Beyer from Germiston in Negurlin raised 4 critical issues to me about the importance of SOE's bailouts, and I quote, 1, it will bring stability during economic crisis, especially on SAE critical to public service such as water, energy, public transport. 2, it will secure jobs. 3, it will bring investor confidence, especially around energy. And last one, opportunity to enforce reforms towards ensuring financial stability. This shows that South Africans understand what is happening in the country. Government funding of state-owned enterprise is not a bailout, but a measure of government to capitalize to meet their developmental obligations and financial objectives. This results in the state subsidizing private companies providing public goods for profiteering. Deputy Chair, last one is that Ms. Mbali Hlophe, who is a member of the Gauteng Provincial Legislature, on this topic, she had this to say to me, and I quote, SOE are state-owned entities with a dual agenda to drive transformation whilst providing service delivery in strategic economic sectors, e.g. aviation and defense. It is a state interest that these are run efficiently, and therefore the state investing towards them should never be seen or characterized as a waste. Therefore, the term bailout tends to fall into this, which is unfortunate, as the resources placed into these entities are an investment towards growth and transformation of the sector identified, close quote. Chair, as I sit down, Honorable Member Boysins says that here in the Western Cape, every R1 of a taxpayer money goes back to delivering services to the people of this province. Chair, I stay in Acacia Park. It's been 5 months I stay in Acacia Park. Right in front of the gate of the Acacia Park, there are people who are living in makeshift shacks. Others are living in plastic houses. Are these people not citizens of Western Cape? How is it that they are not beneficiaries of this R1 that goes to be spent on the people of the Western Cape, that the Western Cape tells about? I use mostly when I'm in the Western Cape an Uber, Chair. Most of the drivers that I interact with, you see, the good doctor is complaining because he's the beneficiary of this R1 that have been spent on the people of the Western Cape. And the poor of the poorest don't benefit anything from these things. I use Uber more than anything when I'm here in the Western Cape, especially in Cape Town. And I interact with these taxi drivers. And most of them will tell you that once it's 1900 hours or 7 p.m., they will never deliver you, or they will not take any call or request from Kaelicha, Guguletu. They will not take anything from Mfuleni, Menenberg, and Cape Flats. These are the people and these are the citizens of the Western Cape who do not feel safe in these areas, but they will take any time. Anytime they will take any trip that takes them to the heights where the so-called the haves, you'll find them. So, Chair, in closing, let me tell you this which they don't want to hear. The Western Cape provincial government has prioritized to spend 700 million on solar panels, even though there's no longer load shedding, and opted to cut 400 million on teachers so that they can cut 2,407 jobs. And that is the Western Cape government in blue.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Honorable Modise. And now to conclude this debate, I call on the Honorable Boyson for 5 minutes.
Honorable Modise referred to different kind of apples. In reality, all apples should be ripe and not some rotten. Cape Town is known, and it's a well-known factor, that is one of the metros that has got a growing number of shelters, so much so that we have to go to court to get those people who are sleeping in the streets to go to those shelters. They refuse, and that is an indication on how serious we are to get vagrants off the street. I mentioned the challenges of the Western Cape, Gauteng, as well as KwaZulu-Natal. I did not say that we are not challenged. I mentioned the challenges of the 3 provinces. The speech has been recorded. The issue on solar panels, indeed, we don't trust what is happening at a national level. We have not have load shedding for quite some time, but the real question is, how much are we spending on diesel behind the scenes? Honorable Gericke started off like a house on fire, pressing all the right buttons. He forgot to mention that what has happened at VBS is no different than the corruption in the SOEs. Honorable Badenhorst, I agree with you.
Honorable Boyson, could you please take your seat? On what rule are you standing, Honorable Gericke?
Hold on. I know the rules.
On what rule?
I want to ask.
No.
As the chairperson.
No, if you cannot quote a rule, please take your seat.
I ask a question?
No, you are out of order.
69.
Honorable
I'm on rule 69.
Please take your seat. Please take your seat. Continue, Honorable Boyson.
But the
Honorable Badenhorst, I agree with you. All of us in here, in 1994, we inherited functional SOEs. It's shameful to say today, 30 years later, the writing is on the wall. MEC Maile, we've heard what you've said many a times ago. The president in the past have set up an interministerial structure to deal with the issues and challenges of Eskom. We're still waiting with a bated breath many years ago. And also we need to come out of the mindset that when there's a problem, we amend the laws. We should execute the existing laws because the resolutions are in there. We do not need new structures to oversee other failing structures. We need to implement the law. And to my deskmate, Member Sithole, you referred to the Zondo Commission and what has happened there. The question should be, why is the Zondo Commission's report not being implemented? Honorable Mokoena, you referred to billions that has been wasted. You forgot to mention the architect of the 9 wasted years. And you also forgot that an opportunity was missed to regard Nkandla as an SOE. Honorable Farmer, Honorable Farmer, your question should be who sits behind the promotion of sprawling? When you have sprawling, you will have service delivery challenges. Honorable Mabilo, indeed.
No, Chair, it seems,
Honorable Boyson, can you take your seat,
it seems
please? On what rule are you standing?
the speaker does not know what
Honorable
is the
Indimanda?
SOE.
No, take your seat. Honorable Mokoena? On what rule are you standing, Honorable Mokoena?
Whether you will take a question.
Please take
Whether
your
you will
seat.
take a question.
Please take your seat.
Because I want to deal with the issue
No,
of
on
an
your-
SOE.
You need to quote a rule, please. Please take your seat. If you can't quote, will you take a question, Honorable Boyson?
I don't have enough time, sorry.
No, you won't take a question. Please take
And this doesn't know what is the SOE, I understand.
Continue, Honorable Boyson.
Honorable Mabilo, indeed, the debate today is to deal with failed SOEs. Those who are working, you ain't fix it when it's not broken. And Honorable Breed, indeed, you described a horror movie, and let me tell you, the actors and the producers of those horror movies are in the house, they're in the sphere, and they've been awarded with Grammys. Honorable Chairperson, in conclusion, let me tell the House and let me tell South Africans that there are fresh eyes, there are brilliant minds as dictated by the outcomes of the voters. Let us fix South Africa, use the fresh eyes, use the brilliant minds, let's fix South Africa. Thank you.
Point of order, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Boyson. Thank you very much, honorable members. I'd just like to appeal to all honorable members, please study the rule book. It is not very good showing on your part when you don't know the rules. So please,
Point of order, Chairperson.
know the rules when you stand up. Honorable Farmer, on what rule are you standing?
I'm standing on Rule 69(1). Is it parliamentary for a member to refer to Honorable Rikus Badenhorst as a brilliant mind?
I don't think that is something that needs responding to. Honorable delegates, I would like to thank all permanent delegates, MECs, as well as special delegates and SALGA representatives for availing themselves for the sitting today. Honorable delegates, that concludes the business of the day. The House is adjourned.
Thank you.
Brother.
Thank you, Chief Whip.
Thank you, Chair. I don't come to work one day. Honorable Mudisa is fighting.